race and identity politics has been, for better and for worse, at the forefront of our attention over the last few years. For the better, it's made us as a society, particularly here in the United States, take a severe look at the class and race inequality that is so deeply ingrained in our culture and institutions, and how the lack of representation just keeps that cycle going. And for the worst, it has seemed to erupt a lot of racial resentment and anger that's just been building beneath the surface. And, to make matters worse there, many of the political and cultural figures on the far alt-right that have gained massive platforms since 2016 have effectively permitted people to voice opinions and views that previously they may have only been implied or entirely unsaid. So it kind of calls into question, is it getting worse, or are people just being more vocal about it? These two movements have pulled everyone to extremes, and the political and media figures across pretty much the entire ideological spectrum are just kind of weaponizing it. They're using it to build their platforms, and the incentive is just not good. So then you factor in cancel culture, and you're creating this situation where the people that we should be having these open conversations with on both sides are being silenced and regulated to the basement of the internet. The QAnon boards where the echo chambers just grow stronger. Meanwhile, you have the people on the far left that are calling for the heads of people who are ideologically their allies just for having good faith conversations or being loosely connected with people that are deemed problematic. It's a fucking mess. It is a fucking mess. And, where do we go from here? How do we stop the widening of this divide and form some sort of bridge that enables us to heal and progress? And, I don't have the answers here. I'm frankly just as overwhelmed by all this as you guys. But what is clear to me, as with most things in life, is that the way out is through. And one way we can kind of start the healing is by having open and honest and nuanced conversations in good faith, where we can openly discuss our experiences, our biases, and our ideological differences. But this will only work if we create conditions where people feel like it's safe to approach each other with compassion rather than demonization. To be able to discuss difficult things and topics with people from all different perspectives without fear that you're going to land on some sort of landmine that could destroy your career or your livelihood. To approach each other as we're all the same rather than different. And today we're going to be jumping into that and quite a lot more with our guest, Maestro Stevens. Maestro is an entrepreneur and brand strategist. He is the founder of Iconic Expressions, a brand marketing agency based in Cleveland, Ohio, where Maestro and his team help minority-owned brands connect with their audience utilizing marketing strategy and automation. He's also the founder of Iconic eLearning, an online platform that helps teach young minority entrepreneurs what they need to know about branding and marketing to start and to scale their businesses. And we dive into quite a lot in this episode. We kind of, the through line is kind of going through Maestro's journey from music producer to entrepreneur. And along the way, though, we kind of have these little rabbit holes where we touch on quite a lot of topics, including race, privilege, representation, adversity, travel, insecurity, mental health, content creation, fame, cancel culture, and lots more. I mean, we dive quite a lot into all this stuff. But what I like about it is that we bounce back and forth, and every single time I feel like it's giving more context to his story. It is pretty cool. I liked the jam session that we had. And, one of the cool things about this podcast and, just being in the podcasting space as a whole is just building these relationships. Since we recorded this, we hung out in Cleveland together, and it was really cool to be able to kind of continue that conversation. And it was like talking with an old friend, So I look forward to doing more of that, going out and recording some of these sessions in person and kind of kicking it with people. And that's something I plan to do increasingly over the next few years. Anyway, lots of cool shit down the road. But in the meantime, on this episode, I bring you the great and the powerful Maestro Stevens.
I get burnt out. I've heard so many burnout stories, and I don't want to be able to, I want to be able to give insight to the next generation on, hey, man, you might not want to do this and do that, but it's like, do I need to touch the stove to know the fire's hot?
See, I mean, that's the thing though. Like, I think my biggest mistake is that I didn't seek more outside mentors.
Right.
Um, and I think a lot of that was on me. There probably was a lot of people that probably would have been down to do that, but I just didn't really know how to ask or how to reach out to that. Part of the problem also was a lot of the people, at least locally in the area, were kind of more traditional agencies, and we were digital and we were kind of up and coming, and
Hmm.
there wasn't a lot of people that and see, this was me being like arrogant and naive. Like I thought that, oh yeah, you guys don't understand. And it's just like, no, the agency model is the agency
It's the
model,
agency model.
just the digital, it's just new toys to play with.
Hmm.
It doesn't actually change the business side that much.
Right. Right.
Um, but yeah, man, I don't know. I would keep it to where you're at. I think you got the right idea. At most, probably six, seven people.
Right.
Once you get past that, that's when you basically have to completely rethink all your systems.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, because everything starts to fall apart after like six, seven, eight people, something around there. I wouldn't go past that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why like I love consulting now, is because it's just you only work on a handful of projects. You get to go deep.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
get to put the time and the attention. So the 3 or 4 projects makes a lot of sense because you got enough. You're not worried on like you don't have a lucky stripe situation where like you have one client that's your whale and you lose it and
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know what we're gonna do. So
Right.
yeah, that's a good setup.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a big difference. And then at the same time, to your point, it's like, how do you do the whole 50 clients at a time and run a podcast full time? And run a
Yeah,
do
yeah,
courses and do all that. Like, it's like,
yeah.
how do
You
you do
can't,
that? You
man.
can't.
Yeah, I mean, some people can. They can disassociate, and they can, they. I think part of it comes down to just hiring really good people that you trust.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
but see, our thing was we got started having to just be out of just a need, hiring younger, cheaper people
Hmm.
because we just couldn't afford when we were starting out to hire top tier talent. And
Hmm.
then you kind of breed that culture where you're like, okay, well now we like having people in and training them and building them up. And it actually worked really well for us. The ROI was pretty high at first.
Okay.
But then after a while, when you have people that kind of always need that kind of guidance, you don't realize until a couple years in how much of a suck that is.
Right.
And because there comes a time when there's that flippening where you're like, okay, now we gotta start hiring people that are a lot more experienced and senior, and then scary at the time because you're used to paying like half of that, and you're like,
Right.
well, we could have 2 people for the price of one. And like, it's, again, like when you're younger and you don't have the experience, you, you kind of, don't realize the value of that experience yourself,
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I'm not one of those people. I just I realize like I'm not a CEO type, you know.
That's a
I'm
huge
just not.
realization.
Yeah, I just realized like I'm not. I am a good leader, but I'm a kind of person that's a leader of like a group of I guess like a group of bandits kind of situation.
Okay.
Like I'm not like hey, let's I'm gonna have this giant organization or whatever. I've always been, I guess thinking back, I've always been kind of a leader of like a movement or something. And that sounds like grandiose. Is not what I mean, but like
I know what you're
I've
saying.
always been I've always been kind of that way. I'm not really like, hey, let's work towards one singular thing and get ROI super dialed in and all that stuff. I'm like, I'm bored. I'm bored. So I guess that realization has just been like, man, I, uh, I don't know. I think I thought when I was younger, like I wanted to run some big company and be uber successful and all that stuff.
Right.
But then I'm just like, that's not me. Like you're talking about earlier. It's like I'm a craftsman.
Right.
I like being able to work on things,
Right.
and that's just not me. I don't know. Where do you think you are on that spectrum?
I was going to ask you, how do you define CEO? You know,
Yeah, I mean, I know that's kind of a loose term, but when
right.
I think of CEO, like you think of someone who's running some the kind of archetype of someone who's running some multinational corporation or something,
Okay.
like someone who just, I guess from a psychographic standpoint, it's somebody who can delegate and be totally comfortable with the delegation
Hmm.
and not get too wrapped up. They can sit there and take that 10,000 foot view and remain at that 10,000 foot view, and they don't get pulled down a rabbit hole.
Okay.
And there is a gift. I would say there is a benefit to that, and there's also sometimes you need someone who can get their hands more dirty, but it depends on what your task is.
Mm,
What are you optimizing for? If you're running a Fortune, 500 company, you can't have someone who's going to go too down the rabbit hole,
right.
because then you're going to get sidetracked.
Right.
If you're running a smaller, more lean team, where you're working on, like, particularly if you're like a SaaS company or something like that, where like you have like a singular product and you're sitting there and you're sculpting it and you're creating it. It's like, I think you probably want someone who will go down a little bit down the rabbit hole on that, because
Right.
then that's how you know. I mean, Steve Jobs was kind of like that. Steve Jobs was definitely a rabbit hole person.
Absolutely.
So he's kind of that odd, rare exception, um, where he would go down those rabbit holes. And if it wasn't for that, like the iPhone wouldn't be a thing, or anything, a lot of the things that he did, that was definitely a passion thing for him. A lot of other CEOs would have looked at that as like, okay, maybe that's too big of a risk right now, or something like.
Hmm.
So I guess for what we're talking about, are you somebody who likes to lead for where it comes easy, or are you someone who leads out of like necessity? Because you feel like you have to direct it in the way that only perhaps you feel like you can. And I think that's where, like, that's either like a Marcus Aurelius type, someone who doesn't actually want to be a leader, but they feel like it's a duty,
Yeah.
or it's someone who's kind of like a craftsman who's like, I want to make sure this is being done the way that it needs to be done. And it's like a, 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 a passion project for them. It's their baby. But then you have people that are leading and they just have this kind of, they're more detached, I guess, and that can make them more effective and efficient.
Mm.
But, they don't have that. I don't want to say they don't have the passion for it, because that almost sounds like uh disservice to them. But I think it's a different type.
It is a different
Does
thing.
that make sense?
Yes, yes. And it's interesting. This is the second time I've heard you use the word Marcus Aurelius. So that's how I
Yeah.
know that that person, must have a very big impact and influence on you as well. He did me. He's a great leader.
Hmm.
Um, and there's just a lot of nuances that you can learn from him. One of my biggest favorite parts, and I'll lead this into your answer, but just being told, having somebody whisper, "You're only a man."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge right there. When you have to have someone else remind you you're a human being while you're
Yeah.
leading. Like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
how many of us not only, would welcome that, but how many of us could realize that we would need that
But
reminder?
you are literally the richest. I mean, at the time, the Emperor of Rome,
Right,
richest, most powerful man in the world.
right, but you're only a man.
You're only a man.
You're
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
man. So,
Yeah.
yeah, to your point, I wondered because I was like, we have something else in common. And then I'll get into my to the story later, but it's ironic that full transparency, I ended up changing my name to Maestro in my mid
Mm,
20s. My actual born name before I actually did the whole legal thing and everything and changed it was Marcus, spelled
mm.
Marquess. I
Interesting.
intentionally changed it to Maestro because of I wanted to symbolize the transformation in my life, not only being a man, but growing to be, um, a businessman, a father, an astounding man, a great man, type of thing. And I say I traded my QU for a TO because I spelled it Marquess and Maestro was spelled Maestro.
Mm.
Pretty much same letters except those two differences there. And
Yeah.
for me, at that time, I was going through that point of learning, what kind of leader am I going to be? I was already working with people, delegating when it came to my first beginnings of entrepreneurship, starting off in the music aspect of things, like, you already know, we talked about already. So I was already accustomed to telling people what to do and how to do it and creating plans and this and that. But then there just came a point in my life where I just felt, I needed to make a huge transformation. and that was
Hmm.
because I wanted to become that big CEO. I knew that I had the potential, but potential is like a slinky. It only goes so far. You got
Hmm.
to break, go
Yeah.
beyond that potential. So for me at that time, I believe to your point, I was more of that passion aspect of it. Then I learned like, yeah, I really want to I want to go down the rabbit hole. I just need to learn how to do that. I need to learn how to be um, less attached to the outcome. I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, like, I can help you create the opportunity, but I'm not going to dictate your outcome. Like, I have nothing to do with that, as far as helping you become successful. And in order for me to do that, I have to be less attached to your outcome. So if, I give you the keys to the car, if you go and crash that mug, fuck it. Like that's all you. Like
On you.
that's all you. Like, so it's something kind of like a Marcus Aurelius situation where you have this internal conflict of yourself, knowing, who you are and what you are and how you're leading, but also knowing that, you got to humble, or utilizing humility and empathy also creates respect, not just
Hmm.
dictatorship and power and money and greed and XYZ, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What where did that where did that aspiration come from? Because I remember at one point I read that like you had this idea, like you wanted to be like a Jay-Z type figure, and I definitely had like a lot of similar kind of like almost like grandiose kind of stuff in my early 20s as well. Um, but where did that drive come from?
I would say came from in my early teens. I knew I didn't want to be regular. For I know it's
Yeah.
a general term. You can use all types of other words, but I knew I wanted to be different. I knew that I had something special about me because of the way the teachers would talk to me, the way my friends would gather around me. I mean, I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, as a kid, moved to Cleveland, Ohio, as a kid to a teenager, and being in both worlds let me know, yeah, this is something you're different because I can talk in both scenarios. I can talk very
Hmm.
proper. I can talk, very urban, when
Yeah.
necessary. I can fit in both. And that really pumped me as far as making me believe, like, yeah, I can do this. I can walk through life in a way that these other people are walking, such as Jay-Z or, Paul McCartney. I even wanted to be like a Beatles at one point in time. Like I wanted to start my own band and be in that
Hmm.
direction. So for me, it was because it didn't come from my mom. Just gonna be honest, it didn't come from my dad. When people ask that question, they usually be like, "Did it come from an uncle, a mom, a dad, your family?" Like, right? That's normally like it came from a family member type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it didn't come from any type of family member for me. It just really came from walking in different worlds, walking under different lights, and knowing that I can walk in these different aspects of life. And at the same time, I didn't know it was called entrepreneurship back then. I mean, when 2005, 2004, that wasn't a popular term. It was, especially for becoming a music entertainer and producer. Like that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a producer. I wanted to be an entertainer. I wanted to have a music label, and raise and rear artists and A&R them and all those kind of things. So for me, it was that. Then I realized, oh, this is entrepreneurship. Like this is what entrepreneurship is about. This is what it's about. They might not call it it. So the drive of wanting to succeed and make that happen, even though it didn't happen the way that I planned it to happen, I'm glad I am where I am now. But that drove me even freaking harder. Like I was like, man, if this shit is not going to work, I'm still going to work out something. So it probably was about just me not accomplishing my original goal and knowing that I refused to fail.
What was the transition from San Antonio to Cleveland like?
I would say there's only so many people out there that can relate. And I know way more people have bigger stories than me when you're transitioning from a different country to another country. That's huge. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but to transition from the suburbs to the hood. Like, it was the opposite of Prince of Bel-Air for me. I felt like the opposite of Will Smith. Like, you know the whole story,
Yeah.
going from
Yeah. Yeah.
Philadelphia to California. It was like, "Mom, what
Yeah.
the fuck? How are we going from California to Philadelphia?" Type of thing. So, yeah, I mean, there's certain
Yeah.
people that probably can relate to that, but it changed my whole world up because of the fact that I didn't see color. I didn't see culture the same way that I learned when I moved to Ohio. And Ohio fucked me up. I'm gonna keep it all the way real. Like, Cleveland fucked me all the way up, in
Yeah.
that sense, because when you're on an Air Force base, you're seeing people of all types of cultures. You're seeing people of all types of creeds. Then you move to East Cleveland, type of thing, like
Yeah.
the hood. And
Yeah.
you're in sixth grade, and the kids are like, "You sound like a white boy."
Yeah.
That changes your
Yeah.
whole mentality up because you're like, "Well, what is that supposed to sound like? What is like, why can't I just sound intelligent? What does a white person sound like?" Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have those stigmas, those stereotypes that I had to learn exist. And I didn't know they really existed when I was under the confines of an Air Force base.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I can relate a little bit. Grew up here in Dayton, and I lived in the rural side of town, Trotwood, and you know, Trotwood's interesting because it actually used to be a fairly good kind of suburban community, a mall around here, and it was very good. And then the demographics changed very, very quickly.
Mhm.
And so I think when I was like in kindergarten, I mean, it's hard to say exactly, but it was probably like 60 to 70% white, I would say the demographics were.
Mhm.
And by the time I was in sixth grade, it was like 80% black, be like, 5% Hispanic and like 5% white or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it was like 10%. But the demographics changed really, really fast.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of racism from all sides, a lot of weird shit. And it was very
Mhm.
perplexing to me because I grew up, like I said, in kind of a rural area, but then the rural side of that town, cornfields across the street, woods behind me.
Mhm.
And some of my immediate neighbors were kind of hillbillies. But then I went to school, which was increasingly kind of an urban demographic. And then I played hockey down south of town with a bunch of very well-off white people, that were like rich, and I was one of the poorest kids there. But then when I went to school, people thought we were rich, and I was like, no, we're definitely not. So like at the intersection of those three kind of things, very similar to you. Like I felt like I could kind of talk on and any of those levels, but it was very confusing because I didn't really feel like I had um like a tribe or anything like that. I didn't
Mhm.
really feel like I fit in really quite anywhere. Like I would fit in probably with the hockey kids the most because we had the most in common, like a singular mission, and you could talk about that stuff. But even then I'd go to their houses, and their houses were just fucking immaculate. They had everything and whatever, and they kind of were like, "Oh, you don't have this?" I'm like, no. And it was like odd having them come back to my place. It was very um very weird. I don't know. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It was odd. It was an odd thing. And I remember like growing up and just being like very confused. Even as a kid, people looking at race, because again, that town like really went economically south really, really fast.
Mm.
And the people that lived there were like, oh, it's because, black people moved in. And it's just like, no, it actually had nothing to do with that. It was a class, it was a whole socioeconomic thing
Right.
that was self-reinforcing, but they just saw it as, two-dimensional. It's
Right.
race. And then what happened is a lot of the black kids that I went to school with were, they were kind of mirroring that because now they have all these kids that were there that were aggressive towards them.
Right. Right.
And then so then it creates this feedback loop. And I
Yep.
remember even
Yep.
as a kid seeing it and just being like, this makes no sense.
Right.
Like it just never made sense to me. Um, and I don't know. So it was very odd. And on one hand, I'm very, very thankful for that because it allows me to kind of see the world in a very different way and to be able, like, you're saying, to speak different languages in a way and being able to translate and but at the same time, like when you're a kid, it's very confusing because you feel like an alien and you
Yeah.
definitely feel like an outsider. And you kind of wonder like if you're the problem,
Right.
or whatever. And it's odd because even as a kid, I'm like, well, you kind of see through things a little bit. You're like, I'm just being me. Like I don't. You are attributing a lot of shit to me just based on how I look, and
Right.
which is what other people are doing to you, and that's not right either.
Right.
So like you see it, but then you're like, okay, is part of that true? You don't really know.
Right.
You
Right.
don't really have. You don't have the. You don't have the perspective of age or wisdom or time, and I don't know. So that's that stuck with me. That was definitely a very defining characteristic. Um,
Yeah.
I think
Imagine.
about it often. Yeah. So what was that experience like for you?
Like you said, it's a defining characteristic. It's something that changes your whole thought process of life, and has you even question sometimes who you are, what you're doing. I mean, the fact that I grew up skateboarding as a black kid, like that was a big deal. That was a huge deal in my area, in my neighborhood. Like I was probably one out of three or four, black kids that skateboarded. Like, and
Did
so
they give you shit for it, or was it just like, oh, he's
absolutely,
weird?
absolutely. My black, I had when I moved to Cleveland, I had a group of black friends, and then I had a group of my alternative friends, is what I call them, because it wasn't all just my white friends. It was Asian friends, white friends. It was a group of just the kind of the rebels, type of thing, as you mentioned before, the bandits, that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I had that, and so for me, it was when I was hanging out around my black friends. You better not bring that skateboard shit around, type of thing, mentality, type of thing. That's was what it was. And then when I was hanging around my alternative friends, don't bring that hood mentality. Don't bring that urban mentality type thing. Or if you do, um, it was you couldn't tell, and it reminds me of Dave Chappelle when he quit, like when he walked off the set, of the
Hmm.
Chappelle show. Same reason, because he said he couldn't tell if the audience was laughing with him or laughing at him. That's why he went
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Africa. Like a lot of people who
yeah.
don't know that, that's why he said he left and went to Africa on his hiatus, because he saw people in the crowd that were laughing a little bit too hard. And you have to really, as a comedian, it's you know the difference between laughs. Let's just keep it all the way real. They were going to
Yeah,
pay him a
yeah.
lot of money, so I think he did that because he felt like there were a lot of people out there that felt that same way in their own community, in their own particular situation. They don't know if they're being laughed at, inappropriate, or laughed with. And
Yeah.
and for me growing up, that was a distinction, and I didn't know it was a distinction of the two worlds. As you said, when you're a kid, you don't fucking know this stuff. You're just like, hey, I got this group of friends over here, this group of friends over here, and like you said, it's creating this feedback loop. I love that. From the simple art of don't give of not giving a fuck. I just read that book,
Yeah.
and
Great book.
yeah, it's a great book actually. And to understand that there are some kids at that time that don't even know who they are, so they're just reacting towards their other friends and their
Hmm.
parents and all that kind of stuff. Um, it just I feel like those are ingredients that create chaos. At times, they can become create extremes of suicidal thoughts, because you really
Hmm.
don't know, and you're wondering why you're being shitted on, while
Yeah.
you're just trying to be yourself. So yeah, for me, it was one of those scenarios where I was Lupe Fiasco before Lupe Fiasco was Lupe Fiasco, type of thing. Yes, like before uh um Lil Wayne made skateboarding cool, type of thing. Like,
Hmm.
and sag tight shorts, and I'm not tight short, but tight pants. And I didn't wear tight pants, by the way. So don't even.
Mm.
But before all that shit was cool, like I was wearing alternative stuff, and I was being made fun of every fucking day by my black friends. Man, you got those what do they call them, khakis on? You got those khakis, man. What the fuck? You got them khakis? You got them Vans? You weren't Vans, and I didn't even wear Vans. I wore Globes, but they're so freaking ignorant to the whole
Yeah.
situation. They're calling my shoes Vans, and or you got them
Yeah.
DCs. Now these ain't no
Yeah.
DCs, but I rock some DCs, type of thing. But that's what they knew. They knew it like that. So they made fun of me all my high school until Lil Wayne made it cool. When Lil Wayne made it
Yeah.
cool, when they the hip hop scene, made that shit cool, all of a sudden they let it go. And to me, I recognize as even as a teenager, as a kid, nah, something's wrong with this shit. Like you guys are just
Yeah.
following trends.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting because you don't get any retroactive cred for
You
being a forefront.
and you don't get I love the way you put
Yeah.
it. You get no retroactive credit for that shit.
Because it's just like, oh, okay, well, you're not abnormal now. Congratulations. It's like, bitch, I've been doing this shit for years.
Years.
Like, years. Now it's cool because this dude does it.
Right.
It's just like, I don't know. I remember when I was a kid, I have really wide feet. And some of the only shoes that would be comfortable for me were Skechers. Because Skechers, I don't know how they are now, but Skechers
They're
when
pretty
I was
fucking
growing up,
comfortable.
yeah, they're comfortable, but they're also super wide
Yeah.
in general. So like, I don't. I know now, like they have like wide sizing for people, but I don't remember that back then.
Yeah. I worked at
Maybe it
Skechers, by the
was.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like I just would wear the Skechers, and like the kids would give me shit for it.
Yeah.
They're like, you just wearing those fucking cheap, what they call them, jeepers, like yeah, like cheap sneakers basically. And they're
Yeah.
like, you're just wearing those things, and they gave me so much shit, and I was just looking at them like they're comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't want to wear shit where my feet hurt, and they're just like whatever, and I'm like, so you're gonna walk around with shoes that are uncomfortable, and I'm like, oh yeah, they probably would, and I'm like, it's so I don't know, I don't get it. I don't know. I was very confused. But then, again, it goes back to this like the more that happens, at least for me, the more of that shit that happens, like the more kind of detached you feel, which can be good in a way, but also it can be very bad for your self-esteem,
Yeah.
you know? Because it got to a point where I just kind of acknowledged like, okay, I'm not going to fit in with anybody here, I'm going to fit in with anybody. So it's just like I don't know. It's odd because now that we're talking about it and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, so much of my identity is just like I feel like an outsider in every fucking regard. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm beginning to see where this all stems from.
Have you ever
You
talked
know,
about this on any of your previous episodes? Like gotten just had
I don't think to that I don't think to this extent. I mean, I've always kind of felt like an outsider, but um, I guess you always kind of think like nature versus nurture.
Mhm.
And I just kind of always thought it was more nature, I guess, but I'm thinking about it more. It's like, okay, yeah, there's definitely a nurture there. I remember when I was traveling, I was in St. Petersburg, and there was this woman I was talking to, and she was a woman of color, and we were talking about things, and we were
Mhm.
just talking about, she was asking me like, how am I traveling, what I saw, and I was telling her my experiences, and she's like, yeah, I would love to go to some of those small towns, but I don't feel safe there. And I'm like, why? Oh, like as I was saying why, I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, I got you. And we started talking about that. We started talking about the nuances. That great conversation. And I was explaining what, because she was at the opposite. Like she grew up in a predominantly white community, being kind of one of the only people of color. And like, so like we were kind of sharing our, the opposite ends of the spectrum, but having a mutual kind of a similar outcome in a way.
Mhm.
Um, like seeing the world perhaps with more nuance, but also feeling more isolated, I guess,
Mhm.
and feeling like you don't really. She and I both, I remember like commenting on the fact that we feel like we have community now, but it's definitely like chosen family of like weird misfits that you've kind of picked up along the way that all get along with each other.
Right.
It's not like a central community. It's not like a central thing. It's not even around like a hobby or something like or a culture. It's just random weird people. Um, but we were talking about that, and it just kind of made me sit there and think about how like there's large portions of society that are kind of in a way off limits for some people, and how that just segments people. And that's something that I thought about obviously when you're traveling. I mean, there's areas where I didn't feel like I was definitely like a minority and I didn't feel super uncomfortable, but I could tell people were very skeptical of me.
Mhm.
And so that was like an extra layer. And, then when, y- I've had, my fiance is a woman of color. I'm like, well, we'll travel and sometimes, and she'll just be like, yeah, I don't know if that place is the best place for us to go to. And like that's kind of had me to sit there and think more and more about this. And one of the things that kind of came to mind is one of the things that I did that kind of helped me
Mhm.
with the cultural difference. 'Cause I have a vintage RV, which is nice,
Mhm.
and it's rehabbed, but in a hipster community, that's cool as shit.
Right.
If you're in like a really rich community, it doesn't matter how good of a rehabbing you do on a retro RV, it's
Right.
still a retro RV.
Right. 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 Right.
It's not like a 2020 brand new $150,000 rig or something.
Right.
So they might not call the police on me, but they would prefer I not be there, kind of weird thing.
Right.
So it's like one of the ways that I kind of went about that when I was traveling was I could easily change. What I mean by that is like I had my hair slicked back.
Mhm.
So if I was going to like a nice area, I would have my hair slicked back. I would basically wear a really nice like V-neck white shirt. I'd have my jean jacket. I would have black kind of gray jeans. I'd have military boots. Um, and basically, the only real difference is if I would wear that, and people are like, "Oh, okay, you just look like a fucking hipster kid," you know.
Right.
So I could fit in. But the reason why became my uniform, this wasn't something I intentionally thought of. It just kind of happened with time.
Yeah.
I would go into a rural town. I would wear my trucker hat, and I would put I would have my military boots go over my jeans.
Okay.
Like traditionally how you would wear them. But if I was in a nice area, I would roll the pant legs, down over on top of the military boot. Those were the only two things I would change.
Mm.
One, I'd have my hair slicked back. The other, I'd wear a trucker hat. One, I'd have my boots tucked in, my pants tucked into the boots. The other one is I wouldn't. And literally, that changes the perception. One, you're kind of rural, working class. The other one, you're a hipster kid.
Right. Right. Right.
And like you could kind of fit in anywhere. But then, that I can't change the color of my skin.
Right. Right.
So like baseline perception, it doesn't matter how much. I mean, yeah, your clothes might help, sure, but you can't change them.
Right.
And that's something where I've had these conversations where I'm like, fuck, part of me, one of one of my last guests actually called me out on that. He's like, dude, you're driving an expensive RV, you're articulate, and you're a white dude. Yeah, people were really nice to you when you were traveling, but that might not have been the case if you were a woman or a person of color. Like you want to believe that people are good, but also it's just like I have a skewed perspective on things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm glad that
yeah,
person, whoever that person is, if you're listening to this, thank you. And hopefully it was done out of love, not done out of malice or anything like
shout out
that.
to Felix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out to Felix. Shout out to Felix. Because that needs to, I think that that's something that we don't talk about enough. And that's what I like about your platform and your podcast. And like the episodes that I've heard, you talk about everything, and you specifically have that in your notes. Like, hey, we're gonna talk about life, everyday shit, and it feels good to be able to have that opportunity and not to feel like I have to hold back or mask shit. And we can have different perspectives, we can have different opinions, as long as there's mutual respect in the conversation. But
yeah,
coming from different worlds, I see that there's a lot of similarities you and I both have. However, as you just alluded to, can't change the color of your skin. So no matter how much you can change the costume, you can't change the
yeah,
person inside of it, type of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. So I mean, like, what is there anything you want to riff off on that point? And I kind of want to transition over into your agency experience because you had very similar backgrounds, but I think that right there might change the context a little bit.
Mhm.
What I don't know, like what having made that change from San Antonio to Cleveland and then having that thing like growing up, like obviously you struggle with it. You're like, hey, like I'm a fucking skater. I'm this. I'm that. Like I'm doing all these things, and then you're constantly getting shit about it. But then when you traveled, when was the first time you like traveled outside of Cleveland? As let's say an older teenager or an adult, and you started kind of experiencing the outside world outside of the context of San Antonio and outside the context of Cleveland.
I believe it was in my young adult age. The biggest one was when I moved to Bowling Green, Ohio.
Mm,
After, and I didn't graduate high school. My story is a little unorthodox and different, and because of the fact that my mother was real big on grades, real big on school. So for me, not graduating high school and getting my GED and getting my
mm-hmm,
GED in Bowling Green, Ohio, college
mm-hmm,
town.
Mhm.
That right there, can fuck with your mind. And
Yeah.
quick story. Only reason why I did not get I didn't graduate high school when I moved back to San Antonio. I was moving back and forth in my during high school because my dad still lived in San Antonio. My mom lived in Cleveland. And
Mm.
obviously, a mother really can't raise a son the way a father can. So she wanted me to go down there. My dad's, didn't really do too much better. He wasn't really a really good father, but I loved the city so much and I wanted to give him a second chance. I moved back there. Well, what they don't tell you when you're in high school, and this is something that you have to learn the hard fucking way, is that the credit system is different. So if I would have stayed in Cleveland my senior year, I moved back to San Antonio halfway through the year. You have the first half of the year, the fall season, then you have the second half, the spring season. I did my fall in Euclid. I did my spring back in San Antonio. What they didn't tell me was all your credits don't transfer. And at the same time, they have a different amount of years that you have to put into for like social studies and for math. Here in Cleveland, you only had to do 3 years of math. You only had to do like 3 years of social studies or whatever, English. I had to do 2 extra years in San Antonio. And they told me the last fucking month when I was supposed to graduate, a counselor called me in, said, Mr. Stevens, I know you have all your credits. I had more credits that I needed to graduate, but you don't have these two classes that are required within our school system. So either you can enroll out of school or you can go to summer school. I didn't have the money to go to summer school because it was a few
Yeah.
$100s. And I was at that time I moved out of my father's house and I started living on the streets, basically from friend house to house, friend to friend, because of that. So, and I was too embarrassed to call my mom, and ask for the money. So I enrolled myself out of school, literally the last month of fucking high school.
Wow.
So moving forward, I ended up moving to Bowling Green at the age of 20 because a friend wanted me to get out of the situation that I was in. I was living in Cleveland. It wasn't a really good situation. He was like, man, I got to go back to college for the springtime. Why don't you come and live with me for a while? I said, cool.
Mm.
I wanted to be around intelligent people because I was an intelligent person. So I moved there to Bowling Green. And that was the first time I moved out of the Cleveland area as an adult on my own to a college town. But the biggest difference of dynamics between me and everybody else there was they were getting their college degree. I was getting a fucking
Yeah.
GED.
Yeah. Yeah.
That changed my whole mindset up. It changed my whole world up. And the crazy part is it took me 3 times to even pass the GED test, not because not because I took it and failed, was because every single time I went to go take the test, I was missing my social security card or my fucking ID. Like for some reason, a month before, 2 months before, I was at a party, I lost one or the other, and they don't accept, they don't let you take the test. So even though, I
Wow.
could pass it flying colors all day, every day, and there's a saying, it takes ID to get ID. Well, if I had ID, I wouldn't need ID. So in order for me to
Yeah.
get an ID, I had to have the social security. In order for me to get social security, I had to go through a slew of bullshit of that loop, like not a feedback loop, but the
Yeah.
fucking system loop, to figure out how do
Yeah.
I get one or the other. But by that third time, I had both my social security card and my ID. I took the test. I passed with flying colors the first fucking time.
So, yeah. So what was that experience like being in Bowling Green? I actually used to go to Bowling Green quite a lot when I played hockey. There was always a hockey tournament there when I was growing up. But um, what was that like being there? And like you were saying, I mean, like it's got to be an interesting thing because you already feel kind of like an outsider inherently, and then you go there and you just we're going to feel like an outsider because you don't know the place. And then
Right.
you're a dude working on your GED and everybody else is like, oh, I'm here to be an astrophysicist. I'm here to be an attorney or whatever the fuck. And you're like, oh, okay. So like, what was that like? Like, did you try and keep that on the DL or was that something you were open about
Hell
or
yeah,
were
gotta
you,
keep that shit on the DL. I mean, I had to keep it like, a handful of people knew, my roommates knew, my girlfriend knew at the time. But as far as that being the topic of conversation when when I entered in to go play some beer pong with people, hell no, I'm not fucking
Yeah.
like saying that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
I'm talking like I'm a part of it. I never lied about it. I never said anything about me going to college there or whatever. I let people assume. Like that's the power of
Mm,
having to. I hate to lie, but if I feel like I'm caught in a hard place back then, I would just let you assume, or I would try to change the conversation. That way, I didn't have to lie. But the whole thought process, the mentality of that was demoralizing. It was something that every single night made me I felt like a piece of shit, even though I knew that I was still working on positive things. I was still doing positive things. At that time, that's when I started my first entertainment company. I started an LLC. None of my friends had an LLC. Nobody in college had an LLC at that time. I did. And I
mhm.
learned years down the road that yeah, an LLC isn't shit. It's just registration, tax registration is. But I was proud of that. That I started something different. I started a company, and I had people that were working with me with the company, but at the same time, it wasn't a degree, and so the people around me, when they were studying for, finals and studying for this and that, and I didn't have that aspect of relativity with them. That shit hurt too. So when they wanted to go party and I wanted to stay back and work on the business or make production, make some beats, those kind of things, build computers. That's when I started learning how to build computers. It was ironically in Bowling Green, when people were in college.
Mm,
My friends didn't know how to build a fucking PC from scratch. I learned how to build one.
yeah.
So I was doing certain things that was unorthodox and different in that aspect of things, but at the same time, I still felt like an outsider. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like at any moment, somebody can find out the truth and call me out on it and then really just start talking down and looking down on me, no matter how cool of a guy I was, no matter how bad I can whoop their ass at beer pong with my left hand and I'm a right-handed person. It doesn't, all that would just go out the window because of the fact you're not here getting a college degree. And this is like Bowling Green is a college town. Like you're either going there to
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
college or to party. Like
Yeah.
one or the other. So I didn't want to come off as the guy who came there to party because there were some people that moved there to party or that moved there and they didn't. I call it Never Neverland. That's my nickname for
Yeah.
Bowling Green. Never Neverland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's some people that never
Yeah.
wanna leave. You can literally be in that town, like, I'm sure, the Ohio State University, as they say. I'm sure you can just be in that town and never grow up type of thing. So for me, I'm
Mhm.
glad that I went through that phase. I got what I needed to get, and then I moved the fuck out, and I moved to Columbus right after Bowling Green, and then I just started going on a nomadic soul hiatus. I started traveling heavily, moving from state to state, city to city.
It's interesting because when it seems like you probably had this insight prior, but you're in Bowling Green, and that probably was the defining moment. Because up until then, it sounds like you were doing pretty well. Like academically, you were doing well. You
Yes.
were getting good grades. You were doing all that stuff. So, while you maybe had to kind of scrap your way along, and you had maybe a little bit more of a handicap in some way than other people did, you still were like, "Hey, I'm keeping up. I'm keeping up. I got this. I got this."
Right.
But then you had that curveball thrown at you. Then with the GED situation, you go to Bowling Green, and it seems like you intuitively at that time realized like, "Oh, the game is like rigged against me. I can't compete. I don't have a competitive advantage playing their game.
Right.
So I'm gonna play my own fucking game." Because it's probability. It's like,
Right.
you know, if you go off and do your own thing, you start your LLC, you start a business, whether it be a music or anything else, or even fuck, it sounds like you could have had a PC repair business.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
matter. Like you had all these different ideas and you're like, hey, at least at that point, it's it's feast and famine, but at least the playing terms are it's survival of the fittest. It's Darwinianism. Here, it's like there's a safety net for people that can afford it.
Right.
I don't have that safety net. I can't be in Never Never Land. Like
I got
I can't do that. I can't afford that. Like I don't have the opportunity for that. I can't play this game because, could you be successful playing their game? Yeah. Would it be disproportionately difficult, a struggle for you? Yes. So it's like the path ironically, the path of least resistance is being an entrepreneur at that point for you, because you're like you're an outsider. You might as well just fucking embrace it,
Right.
because you do, as an outsider being an entrepreneur, like, high probability of failure, but also the upside is significant if you were able to crack,
Right.
and you're someone who's driven and likes to, to do. I also think there probably was subconsciously, at least this was for me, maybe I'm projecting, but there's this kind of like, I'm going to fucking show you motherfuckers, like, I'm going to fucking show you dudes. I don't even know who the you is, but it's almost just like the world. Like, like you're just like, I'm good to be successful. That for me manifested as this kind of overachieving issue, where like I constantly wanted to be the best at everything. Like even playing a Super Smash Brothers was dangerous with me.
Oh, that was the Josh. That was the game. That was the game. Yeah.
I would fucking just get so. I remember I always play Star Fox. And I would kick
Star
people's
Fox,
fucking
man,
asses.
Nintendo 64. Are we talking about that? Or are we talking about?
Yeah, the N64, the original dude. Dude, Star Fox was OP,
That was
man.
my
I don't give a fuck. I will go to my grave. Star Fox was OP, but like I would be Star Fox and just fucking dominate people. And then at one point, I played this one friend, and God, who did he pick? I think it was a Link.
Okay.
I don't know, and he just fucking obliterated me. And I was like, no, we're doing this again, redo. And he beat me 3 times in a row. Now by the last round, I was doing a little better.
Mhm.
But still, I mean, he was just like hold my beer, like, and he was just destroying me. And dude, I really thought that like I had a better handle over myself. I didn't want to show it, but I was like very distraught inside. And I'm like, why is this? And I'm like, oh shit. I'm not used to being called out on that shit. I'm
Mhm.
used to just like being so good at things that like it goes without saying.
Mhm.
But then when I actually and I had this like confidence, but I realized how fragile that confidence was. Like
Man,
it was
somebody beat your
it's
ass.
just because
Yeah.
it wasn't challenged. Yeah, then I got my ass kicked. I was like, ah, fuck. Like, okay. Um, so yeah, man. All right. So now that little seed has been planted, the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial seed,
Yeah.
and you're going off, and now you're being a nomad. How did the nomad transition start? Where did it take you?
Man, shit. Um, it humbled the shit out of me. Like
It does,
life
dude.
beat me the
It
fuck up.
does.
I can say
Yeah, yeah.
it took me a while to really realize. And for me, like to your point, I was never cocky. I was confident. And rightfully so. Like I feel like I'm behind in life. I feel like I'm behind in life, and I need to catch the fuck up, and I need to. And the only way I can do that if I don't have the support of my family, because I really didn't have the support of my family, I have to do it to myself. So I had this aspect of confidence, especially when I was leading other people older than me, telling them, "Hey, you might want to go left, you might want to go right, you might want to do these things too."
Yeah.
So when you have that kind of mentality, that right there, even though I was moving from place to place. So after Bowling Green, I moved to Columbus. And then from Columbus, I moved down back to Texas. From Texas, I moved to Austin. I moved to Texas, specifically Houston, Texas. Then I moved to Austin. Then I moved to Tampa. And I moved to New York,
Mhm.
and Buffalo. And in all those places, I had this chip on my shoulder. Like, yeah, I know I'm behind. At the same time, I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. That's the better way to call it. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I had this stigma for myself of, like, I used to say the same, like, I'm gonna make $1 million before 30. Like, I was one of those
Yeah.
people that really, like, I'm gonna make $1 million.
I I said, dude, I was even more of I was even more up my own ass. I was like, I want to be retired by the time I'm
Shit,
30.
yeah. Oh shit! I thought I was.
Dude, I know.
I thought I was
I had a problem.
bad. You retired.
Man, yeah, I wanted to be retired. I mean, like that was relative, I guess, a little bit. Like I think I always thought I was going to keep working in some regard, but I wanted to work because I wanted to work,
Yeah,
not because I had to work.
yeah,
And actually, the funny thing is that you, depending on how you invest your money, you actually only need $750,000 in the bank, and you basically have about $35,000 a year in interest.
yeah.
Which here in Ohio, you can live off of that if you had a house. Like if you had a house and whatever, like you could live off of 35. You're not gonna fucking be Scrooge McDucking in money,
No,
but
but
like
you can live.
you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
live So like that was one of the things is like I wanted to probably about that. Like I wanted to make $1 million minimum because then I could live off of $35,000-$40,000 a year. And obviously, once you have that covered, everything else is bonus.
Right.
You're gonna accrue more and more wealth. But I was just like, I don't want to work by the time I'm 30.
Right.
And I I I probably could have made that happen. I actually got fairly close to that in a way, but I don't think I actually would have got. I think if I would have kept going in the direction, I think I would have just crashed and burned. So
See.
like I had the foundation. By the time I was 25, we had the business. It was doing pretty well. If I was in a really good, healthy mental state, it's 5 years. Like I could have gotten it to that point, but the problem is like I was not in a healthy mental state. Don't really think there was any combination of things where I wouldn't have like crashed and burned if I would have kept like on that trajectory.
And this is
But
right,
anyway,
right. And that's
yeah,
hindsight speaking. Like you're talking about,
yeah.
you're not talking with the same mentality, that you had back then that you have now.
Oh fuck
And
no.
so that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. So it's easier to say that I could have, I should have, I would have, I had this, because you're smarter, you're wiser, you know what to do now. When you're in
yeah.
your mid-20s, and my uncle said this to me when I was like 25, and I argued with him, and he was like, "Man, you're not gonna become a real man or understand even what becoming a man is until you're about 27." And he said that in front of his
Oh
other
man.
boys, and I felt embarrassed, but at the same time, I give him credit all to this day. Yeah, no, he was fucking right. Like you really don't start to understand till you hit the late 20s, early 30s about not just life in general, but about just learning financials, uh, financial
Hmm.
literacy. That's a better way to say it. Because it's easier to make money than it is to understand how to invest it, how to use it,
Yeah.
what to do with it. I know a lot of people back then in the 20s that were, I mean, don't drug dealers make a killing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but how many rich
Yeah.
drug dealers do you know? Like, well, so it's really,
Diversify your bonds.
so diversify your bonds. So yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's it's one of those situations where when you're at that time and you're at that age, you're doing this life and you're doing these movements and you're happy about them. But at the same time, that mentality aspect is so crucial because if you don't get that mental together, like you said, you're gonna crash, you're gonna burn, or you're
Hmm.
gonna piss a lot of people off, and then you're gonna lose your opportunities, your network. I mean, yeah, your network and other people. And for me, during that time, like I remember when I moved to Texas, that's when I really had the eureka moment. Like I was struggling when I moved to Columbus at around it was around 2012, 2011. I was struggling mentally. I was living with a DJ. He was a dope DJ. And he was we were cool. I appreciated him letting me stay with him, but there were just some things that I felt were contradicting his lifestyle. And I'll never forget the conversation you had because I had lost my job. I was working at the Dollar Tree at that time in Columbus, and I lost my job, and he was like, "Man, I'm Superman compared to you." And that shit, like, that broke me all the way the fuck down because it's like, dude, you're struggling too. Like, you might have this,
Yeah.
you're in this nice, place you're renting out with your girlfriend and your friend, and I know I'm living with you all, but you're not that much more well off than I am in the grand scheme of things. And that shit like broke me
Yeah.
down to a degree. But when I moved to Texas and I went to South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. I'll never forget this shit. The first year I went to South by Southwest, and I'm not sure for people that are listening, it's basically a huge conference. Music,
Yeah.
film, and technology. Most people don't understand the technology part about South by Southwest, and it's held in Austin, Texas, because of the fact Austin is the music capital of the world. For the most part. And I went there the first time as a artist, producer, and I didn't get the love that I thought I was gonna get. I had all my what my materials, whether it was my CDs, flyers, business cards, all that kind of shit, and I didn't get the love that I wanted to get. I went there again the second year after I had taken photography and video. I picked up a T3i. I was like, all right, this music
Hmm.
shit's not working. I finally was giving up. It's been like over 10 years. I love music. I love this whole thing, but it's not working the way I wanted to. I picked up a camera. I went there the second time and I got into every fucking major thing you can think of. Not only that, I took hundreds, no, I took thousands of pictures. I wasn't of hundreds of people, but I took thousands because people want multiple pictures, fuckers.
Yeah.
But I took thousands of pictures, and only about, we'll say, 5 to 10% of those people asked me how they were going to get their images. That shit right there blew my mind because it made me realize people didn't give a shit about them getting the content. They just wanted to feel important,
Yeah.
which changed up everything. I was like, whoa, okay. I thought I was doing this whole helping people, delivering messages, creating solutions through the music side of things, in my own way. But when I moved and transitioned more into a different medium, to the video photography, I was like, no, this is a way where I'm really getting behind the camera, so to speak, instead of being in front of the camera. And that changed everything for me. And that was the only reason why I pivoted eventually into the whole marketing world, because people wanted to know, my associates and colleagues wanted to know what to do with their images, what to do with the content. So I just started learning
Mhm.
how to do things with that. But that right there was the eureka moment that changed everything in my entire life.
All right, that's a good point. Um, to put a flag for right now, because I just got a notification that they are shutting off from my neighbor. They're forced shutting off the power
Whoa.
at 1 o'clock until 3 to replace a power line because of the fucking snowpocalypse.
Oh
So I'm
shit.
fucking pissed off because we got good momentum going. I could tell you're really fucking amped up, and I love this. Anyway, we're back. It's like what, a week later now? I don't know.
We're
So
back.
we're
Yeah.
back. All right. So we were last talking. You went down to South by Southwest,
Yeah.
and you kind of, it was kind of, it sounds like it was kind of like your Hail Mary. You were just kind of like, okay, well, uh, this is then you came back though, and then you had the camera with you, and you were taking all the photos. There's two things listening back, because I think we both listened to like the last like 10 minutes just to get reoriented since we had to
Yeah.
reschedule. Um, and there was something listening back on it that was interesting to me, is because there was kind of two main things. Like
Hmm.
one was this aspect of you being like, oh shit, okay, this is kind of vapid. Like these people don't really care. But then there's also this aspect of like, why have I been doing this? You know? So it's just
Right.
like I'm really curious, like how did that, because on one hand it could kind of make you a little dejected, because you're just like, all this work I've been doing up until now, um I mean, there's a lot there. It's like you were a musician and you did that, but it was kind of like you were taking a step back from that, and in a way, you were kind of like saying, like, "Hey, this is just not working." So that's got to be pretty heavy. But then you come back and you made that transition to marketing, but even that, you're like, "This doesn't seem to be working for me in the way that I thought it would." You know,
Exactly.
because like
Exactly.
it's like for me, I originally wanted to be a filmmaker. I don't remember how much of this I've talked about on the podcast at all, if at all, but like I wanted to be a filmmaker. I grew up watching, Stanley Kubrick and,
Stanley Kubrick.
yeah,
Yeah.
Heidi
Yeah.
Aikano's like End of Evangelion. I was really into a lot of Scorsese's early films. David Lynch was my homeboy. Fucking Eraserhead is Eraserhead's always in my top 3, but you know how it is with, like, favorite albums and movies, it kinda bounces back and forth depending on the mood,
Right.
but I love that shit, and I wanted to be a filmmaker, and that's one of the reasons why I kinda doubled down on the marketing, because 'cause I'm just like, um I don't wanna be a starving artist, you know? So
Hmm.
I'm like, I wanna try and, like, have reliable income and then work on this, and I kinda always knew from a young age I wanted to be indie, I never really wanted to do big budget stuff, um so I was like, I can learn how to do marketing for other people. I can make money doing it and then learn how to do the marketing and running a business myself so that
Yeah.
I can be independent. And then somewhere along the way, life just takes you. And then I was just, the next thing you know, you got an agency. Next thing you know, you got like a team of 12 people and you're like, wait, what? I wanted to be a filmmaker. How did this happen? But the thing is that I kind of similar to you, is like I felt like I was helping people, and I was, doing all these things, and that was making me feel good, but I also had some moments where I was just like, for us it's like we worked with a lot of like purpose-based businesses and a lot of like local nonprofits and stuff like that. So you could feel good about that. But there were some clients that I had where I'm just like, what am I doing? This doesn't feel right,
Hmm.
you know? So it's like
Yeah.
for you, you realize that that's got to be heavy. Like both you were kind of transitioning out in this dream that you had. You were just like, this doesn't it's serving me. It's not getting traction. But then the thing that you pivot to also, you were kind of feeling dejected from, you were kind of demoralized by that experience in Austin. Um, so then what you there was one more thing though, is that I think you saw how you could hack the system. At like and I think you already had this, but it was really interesting how like this is something a lot of people don't realize. First of all, just fractionally, situationally, if you have a camera, you can get away with almost anything. Like, if you have a nice camera.
Yes.
I can't tell
That
you how
is
many times I
crazy.
had, like, a shoulder mount, and then you have the camera attached to the shoulder mount. They're literally, like, $20 on Amazon. They are not expensive equipment. I mean, you can get really expensive ones, but you can get one that looks professional for 20 bucks. And then
Right.
you have, like, a nice digital SLR camera attached to it. You can walk around at an event, unless it's the highest, like, security, nobody will ask. You just say, "Oh, I'm press," or, "Oh, I'm shooting a video," or what. Nobody cares.
Right.
It's crazy. But then you went down there and you were just like, "Man, I can get away with whatever I want and I can get access to all these people. No one questions it." So that's also interesting. So now you got those 3 things. You can't it seems to me like that experience at Austin was very transformative to you because you had those 3 very big kind of experience points. Like, okay, this is the end of an era here, but this is a transition. But even the transition is kind of weirder than I thought. And then also, I can do some weird shit and get away with it. So as an
Yes.
entrepreneur, that's
Yes.
huge. So like where were you at from a headspace perspective leaving Austin?
From a headspace perspective at that time, I was pretty worn out, I
Mm,
would say. It was a gift and a curse scenario, as you mentioned, because for me, that was my eureka moment. That was
yeah.
my moment of clarity, of understanding that this whole scenario is a teaching scenario. I'm going to learn
Mhm,
a lesson out of this. But the transition of realization between working one way, working from one perspective to working another perspective, to
mm,
me, that's priceless.
mhm,
And although specifically at that time, Headspace, I was going through a lot of, uh, personal situations and growth, and we already touched on it earlier. But when you are going through those situations and you're in this mental loop, you're downing yourself. There's only so much thoughts that's going to come to your head to help you make even better decisions until you
mhm,
actually start dealing with that. The great part is going through that experience, like you mentioned, it is it's thought provoking. So it's like it kind of counteracting this whole I'm stuck, I'm paralyzed scenario because you're still going through something that, and I 100% believe a lot of people do go through it. For me, it was literally at South by Southwest at a conference that's meant supposed to be fun, but it was only because I went to the same place. So that it was like a constant and there was a variable. The constant
yeah,
was it was
yeah,
the same location, it was the same event. The variable was I changed how I attended this event, what I attended this event with. And the second time around, to your point, you can get away with murder basically if you have a camera on, on your.
yeah,
I mean, and not to give away the plot, but there's a movie that I love called Nightcrawler with Jake
yeah,
Gyllenhaal,
yeah, yeah,
and it's kind of like alluding to that whole premise, like if it bleeds, it leaks, kind of thing. So
mhm,
you can technically get away with a lot, and you can call that or consider that a life hack. In some perspectives. So yeah, you're hacking the situation, but a camera can give you a life hack, and get you into certain scenarios that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And I think it goes back to the point that I was alluding to before, where people want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be understood. And I'm, Oprah has mentioned that many of times, so I'm sure some people can relate to that, and a lot of other big influencers as well too. But it's just the fact that people want to feel important.
yeah.
And a camera will do that. A camera will make a person feel important. A small person, a tall person, um, a white person, a black person, a younger person, an older person. I've seen every single there is like a camera or being captured and feeling important is global.
Yeah.
There is no certain person or scenario that it fits for and it doesn't fit for. So that for me, that understanding and then allowing that to help me transition my thinking from being a content creator with this specific medium to now I can be a content or a service provider. And then while I'm becoming a service provider, I can also teach people that want to learn how to do similar things, similar tasks, similar activities, learn similar skill sets. That right there was like the bundle of joy for me at that time, no matter how much personal um obstacles I was going through.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because like I see that in the podcast space a lot where there's a lot of podcasts that like probably don't get any views or anything at all. Like but people love going on them, you know? I mean
Right.
so it's like a vanity metric, It's like, "Oh, I've been on like
Right.
30 podcasts." And it's like, "Okay, how many of those podcasts actually have listeners?" But at the same time, you also like Ryan Holiday talks about like this whole thing with media manipulation, like trading up the chain. So it's
Hmm.
just like, you get some sort of thing in like some local blog that doesn't matter because it's really easy and they're just hungry for content and they have like very little journalistic integrity a lot of the time. So you just put something in there and then you take
Yeah.
that when they publish it and you send it to a slightly more reputable local one. And then you just keep going up the chain until next thing like you know, you've got like one of the state's biggest, media outlets covering it, and then you take that to MSNBC or you take that to, Gawker or you take it whatever the hell, it doesn't matter. Like you take it to all these different things, and next thing you know, you turned a distorted reality into truth.
Right.
So it's just like you can kind of do that in some regards where you have these vanity metrics where it's like I've been on 300 podcasts. It's like, that sounds impressive, but, you could have 300 listeners from those 300 podcasts. But it's just the
Right.
fact that you've been on them. So it's just really interesting how, uh, just from a psychology standpoint, how people like it's very surface level a lot of the time. But
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
what was kind of the next step for you beyond that? Were you back in Cleveland at this point?
For me, the next step was, and this was a huge time for me during my kind, I would call it like my finding myself, which wasn't like a day or two. I would say it was a few years. So
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
has their own timeline. I ended up going from there to link up with another good friend and an associate, like partner wise, as far as like we'd done business together in the past and we were friends. And I wanted to see how that was gonna pan out. And that was held in Tampa, Florida, as far as like me trying this journey out with my friend. And it was a cool experience, but at the same time, it was something that I realized in hindsight, it was a part of my finding myself in
yeah,
scenario.
yeah,
It didn't ultimately work out, but it did grow me even more than who I was when I was in Austin. And at that time, I got to utilize all the skills and the new awareness that I had learned while my journey in Texas and specifically Austin being the city that really gave me that eureka moment. So the next step was, okay, let me take that. Let's see if I can partner with a friend, utilize these skills. He's got skills. We know each other. It makes it a lot easier, in my opinion. And this is not like a one size fits all scenario, but when you can work with your friends and people that you trust, or these people that you trust, I feel like you have less of that sensitivity going into the engagement. However, it does conflict things as well too. So there is the opposite side of it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that
It's
was what I
great.
was striving to do.
It's great until it's not.
It's great until it's great until it's not. Yeah, and that
Yeah,
was something that was huge for me at that time. So that didn't really work out as much. I ended up, that's pretty much the reason why I ended up back in Cleveland, in Ohio. And I think a lot of people don't really understand the importance of a support system,
Oh
like
yeah.
beyond just
Yeah.
business and professional. And it's something that I don't hear a lot of people talk about for whatever reasons. And I held it back for a long time too, because your support system can also be like the downer system. Like the people
Yeah,
that hurt you the most can be the people that help you the most.
for sure. What was your takeaways from that? Because like it's interesting. When I was on the road, it's like I'll take a step back. When I was leaving Dayton, I really didn't think that like I would come back here. I mean, obviously to visit and shit, and I even thought about maybe I would have like a small little place here that or whatever just to come back to or something. I don't know. Like so that wasn't out of the question. That wasn't like a short term thing. That was like long term since my friends and family are
Yeah,
here. Like whatever. But um if I'm not using it, maybe I use it as an Airbnb or something for people. I don't know. Like so, but that
right.
was something I wasn't even really considering much. It was just like, I could see that maybe down the road. Like if somebody asked me, like, "Do you ever think you're gonna come back a date?" And I'd be, to visit. Maybe I have a place down the road. I don't know. But then I went on the road and I did all this. I really thought like, New Orleans or Austin or Asheville, North Carolina or
Yeah.
Seattle or some shit. Like I really thought one of those, some place was going to just call me, and New Orleans almost did. Like, I almost moved down there. I spent, like, 9 months there and met my fiancée there and really good friends, and
Wow.
I fell in love with New Orleans, but there was a lot of things about it that kept me from moving there, and the biggest one really was the lack of my friends and my family, and I made a lot of friends in New Orleans, and I definitely felt like it was kind of becoming a second home, but it wasn't the same. And the longer I was on the road, the more I felt like that pull, that gravitational pull back to my people. And also just back to familiarity, which is so odd because I'm someone I have the wanderlust pretty hardcore. Like I am a novelty, I've called myself a novelty addict, like a novelty junkie. Like I'm always wanting to do new things and whatever. And that's one of the reasons why I always resonated with Bowie because he was always travel and trying new things, different genres of music, throwing out everything
Right.
else. Like, it's just like it's funny. Like young Americans, as a English white dude who was pale as a ghost and like skinny as a rail is like, you know what? I want to get into to soul music. I want to make a soul album. It's like what? Like it was just he's just an interesting dude who cared about unique things, and I always identify with that. So the thought of like going back to a place where I know everyone. I've been to every restaurant, every bar pretty much. I've been everywhere. If you looked at my Google Maps, I have like
Yeah.
every single fucking thing starred. Like basically all of Dayton is just gold from all the stars, of all the places that I've been. Um
Gold everything.
yeah, but it's interesting. After all that though, like I really desired to be back here because it's like you forget about how little things like if you have problem with your car or something, it's like I can call Geico and they can come tow me or wherever, but like
Right.
it's like okay, what mechanic do I pick? Do I
Right.
know? Do I? And I
Right.
got pretty good at vetting that, but it's just like oh, I could just go down to my dude Brad. Like I trust him. Like oh shit, like I need new glasses. Okay, well I can just go down to my dude Kevin who owns a sunglass, a
Right.
prescription eye place and can make me a custom pair. Where do I go when I'm on the road? Like, it's just little things where it's like those seem super, super minor,
Yeah.
but you start realizing once you have those little tiny encounters, how much you miss that. Like, you miss having your people and you miss, like, I'm tired. I just want to go to my home bar or I just want to go to this, oh, I'm really craving this burrito or whatever. It's like you could find that anywhere, but there's something about that familiarity. I don't know. And that's something that I definitely, if you would have talked to 25-year-old me, I would have been like, you're out of your goddamn mind. Like I want to go everywhere. I want to see everything. So what was your experience like in Tampa? I spent a decent amount of time in that area. I surprisingly didn't go to Tampa a hell of a lot. I spent most of my time in St. Petersburg. I really liked St. Petersburg a lot. I had a friend there, and then I developed kind of like a social network there. And if I had to live in St. Petersburg, I wouldn't be miserable. You know,
Yeah.
I
I
would
can
I
see
would
that.
enjoy being there. It wouldn't be the first place I'd want to be, but if I had to live there, I would enjoy it. Um, So what it's honest it's, interesting, like, St. Petersburg vaguely feels kind of like a coastal, Ohio town in some regards.
I
Uh,
didn't even get to see St. Petersburg, actually. I wish I had. I wish I would have been able to visit a few more places while I
yeah.
was in Florida
He
because Tampa was beautiful. I didn't venture out as much because I wasn't there on the notion of touring or vacationing,
Yeah,
those
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
scenarios. Like I was there to live and to, get work done. So it was a on one side, it was a great experience to be able to see this different type of lifestyle people. I mean, to see, I don't know, like I don't want to get the animals wrong, but I felt like I saw flamingos outside of our apartment, like, just
Yeah.
like looking outside or whatever.
Did you see the
So
roosters and the chickens?
the chickens, the roosters, I
Yeah,
mean, like, just birds, like, really big
yeah,
birds, really I mean, I'm used to seeing big insects and certain things that are, bigger than normal, being in Ohio, living in Texas, being from Texas. So it was a different type of, nature, I would
yeah, yeah,
say,
yeah,
going to Florida. I was used to the humidity as well, being from Texas. So there were some things that it was very familiar, going back to what you were saying before, but then there were also things that was like, "No, this is Florida. This is a whole
yeah,
different." I feel like I'm in a whole different world even though I'm still
yeah,
living in the United States. And then to your point, as going back towards the, feeling the familiarity of being around family and friends and the whole support system and, having a different mindset when you were younger versus traveling, I do feel like on one hand, to me, that's what I would consider a first world problem,
yeah,
type of situation. Like I hate to say it like that, but no, at the same time, I don't hate to say it like that. Like I'll just be that blunt, or at least I'll be that bullish about it because I apply the same thing to myself. Like no
yeah,
matter how much, um, disproportionate scenarios or opportunities that I may have, I still know I am in a first world country. I'm living in America. So the problem that I'm having, if I wish I can go back home, but I can't go back home, or I wish I can call this person and have them make me that thing that I'm comfortable with. That's a great privilege to have, but that's not the norm around the world.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that that's something very important for people to understand the beauty of being okay with taking that risk, with traveling, with living in a different environment, in a different culture, no matter how much you want to go back home, no matter how much you want a Dorothy from Wizard of Oz. You got to realize, man, the shit out here is the Wizard of fucking Oz. Like you can
yeah,
go back home to Kansas. Kansas is cool, but Kansas is safe. Kansas is not the real world.
yeah,
And I feel like that's something that you have that you can talk about. I feel like I have that I can talk about, and I'm sure others resonate with that as well, um, that yeah, there is greatness and or great feeling and familiarity, but I do think that that's a big part of the problem in our culture as Americans, and we don't take risks because of it. We don't want to try new things. We don't want to be the early adopters or of something. I was reading some stats because I was rebuilding out my actual brand strategy for this blog, this resource center I'm making for minority creators. And
yeah,
it was just so interesting to see some things that I was just like, wow, it is a different um it's a different way of thinking, it's a different way of moving when you are, when you're coming from an underrepresented situation. I'll put it like that. And for me, moving, living first of all, economically living in these places that are booming, that are doing great, like Austin, Dallas, you mentioned it, like Miami, Chicago, New York. Like you have to financially be able to afford that. One, to be able to do so, and then two, you have to understand that there is going to be a sacrifices that will have to be made. Going back home most likely is going to be something, or going back to your support system, if you're not able to sustain, you're going to have to do that whether you like it or not.
yeah.
I mean, that applies for everybody, but I still think that it's a different scenario when you are not as accustomed to certain opportunities as others would be.
Yeah, and it's weird how, like, people They find every excuse a lot of the time, like, not to take chances, and they don't realize, like, how much of a safety net there is in this country compared to most of the world. So it's like you can take chances and, like, like, you're never gonna starve and die, just, completely alone on some deserted island or in the middle of the desert. I mean, just unless you happen to just go out in the middle of the desert in Arizona. But, like,
Yeah.
there's always a safety net. It's like there's always something no matter what. Like, if you don't have friends and family, it's like there's homeless shelters, there's whatever. There's a lot of things. Not to say that we couldn't do a lot better. And I definitely am supportive of a UBI, of universal basic income, so people
Hmm.
could, live for a living rather than, living to work or whatever. I think it would
Yeah.
significantly help with mental health issues.
Absolutely.
Significantly. So
Absolutely.
much of our mental health issues are stemming from a lack of purpose and feeling like you have to fight just to survive and constantly be in this survival mode. And if you alleviate the survival mode, then you can start thinking about why do you want to live and then doing that. Whether that just be, I want to plant in my garden and whatever, or I want to do this or that. It's like you could do that.
Yeah.
I was talking to one person and they're like, I would love just to volunteer at animal shelters. I would love to just have more time to do that. I would love to just do that full time. Uh, but they're like, "Oh, I'm stuck in this job." I'm like, "Well, also, you could just get a job at an animal shelter." But
Right.
still, like, the point is there's this one time I was in Akron actually, and I was there visiting a friend, and I went to this little, like, hole in the wall kinda neighborhood/dive slash dive bar. Like, it was a neighborhood bar, but it was a fucking beat down one and not a great area, but I don't know, it appealed to me. Like, I was just fresh back from New Orleans, and I'm like, "Give me your grittiest, dirtiest place that I wanted to go to," and I went there, and I had the RV parked a couple blocks away. Uh, I had realized, sometimes it's better not to have the RV parked outside of a bar you're gonna be in if it's kind of a sketchy one. Um,
I
so
can
I
see
was
that.
there and everyone was super nice. But there was this dude who you could tell definitely had some problems. And I don't even remember how we sparked up a conversation, but somehow we did. And eventually we're like sitting at a table and like we're drinking and we're just having this long conversation.
Mhm.
And it kind of became a therapy session for him. And it was really interesting because he was trying to be super, like, intimidating to me. I think he thought that I was, like, I think when he thought I had an RV, I think he thought it was, like, some, $300,000, like, the equivalent of a yacht, whatever. I don't know what
Right.
he thought, but I think he thought that I was, like, some entitled rich kid, which was weird because I had military boots and a jean jacket on, like,
That
whatever. But and
right.
I'm in a a shitty hole in the wall dive bar. That is wonderful, but it was like anyway, it was weird. He was definitely. I think he thought that like he could intimidate me. And at one point, he's like, "What would you do? What would you do if someone like took a knife out right now, like threatened to stab you? Like, what would you do?" And I'm just like, "They're not gonna do that in here. There's a bunch of people around. Like,
Those
why are you doing?"
theory
And
questions.
he's like, "Well, where's the RV at?" And like he was like, I'm like, "You either are trying to just fuck with me or you actually are dumb enough to, like, try and, like, get information because you wanna break into my RV." Like, it was just weird. And so he had this, like, hard exterior, even though it was super obvious to me that he was very insecure and he was just
Yeah.
projecting this image and it wasn't real. And I found that
Right.
fascinating. I found it really fascinating. And at one point, the whole thing reversed. And he went from having this, like, really, fake, faux, hard exterior, trying to be, like, intimidating or something. It was very odd.
Mm.
And then he got very vulnerable. And this was the interesting thing, is he was someone who acted, like, really hard, but he was so scared. He was so afraid. And he had a girlfriend that he had been with since high school. I think he was probably in his, like, early to mid-20s. I'd say, like,
Mhm.
24, maybe, still pretty young,
Mhm.
um, but old enough. And he said he'd been with her since, like, middle school, high school, I don't remember, and she doesn't wanna travel at all. She's a homebody,
Mm.
wants to stay in Akron, doesn't wanna go anywhere, whatever. And then he basically was just like, "Yeah, I wanna travel, I wanna go see the world, I wanna do all this." I'm like, "So go do it." And he
Right.
was just like, "Well, I'm afraid." He basically was just like, give me every single reason why he couldn't. And I was like, "Okay, well, do this, do that, like, get a temp job. Get a temp job in a place that has cheap cost of living
Yeah.
and do that, and then just do whatever. I'm like, he said he had a van or something like that. I'm like, live out of your van, you know? Get a membership at the YMCA, go
Right.
to your van, take your showers there, do whatever until you're able to get a spot. There's so many ways, and every single time he was just making excuses. After a while, I'm just like, imagine it's 10 years from now. Uh, you get diagnosed with cancer. I'm like, you only have like, so long to live. Are you gonna regret like not having gone out there and experienced the world just because you wanted to compromise and like you didn't want to break up with your girlfriend? And I'm like,
Right.
it's inevitable you two are not gonna work out because you have incompatible lifestyles. She wants to go in
Yeah.
this direction, you want to go in this direction. It's not going to work out. You guys are delaying the inevitable because that's going to manifest in different ways. And
Yeah.
at one point, like he's that's when it flipped again and he started getting really aggressive. And it's because he realized have he didn't have a reason. He was just afraid. He wasn't he was, and it's like I think he thought that he was like this badass, this like king of Akron kind of thing when he wasn't. And I remember I just went up to I'm like, I'm gonna get out of here. So I just went to the bar and I bought him a shot. And I just told the bartender, like, this dude's a fucking, you need to get him like home or something. Like he's getting unnecessarily heated and aggressive. And she's like, yeah, I'll deal with it. And I just gave him a shot. And I'm like, hey man, see ya. And I left. But I just remember leaving that and just being like, man, that was sad. Like it's so obvious what he could and should be doing, but he didn't want to do it because he's afraid. But he didn't want to acknowledge he was afraid. He got stuck in this thing. So it's just like, I don't know. It's I don't know, for me, it sounds like you're the same way, but for me, it's like the fear of regret is far bigger an issue for me, a far harsher pain for me than like the
Yeah.
fear of like failure, you know?
Yeah, and I would call it, like, that's America, when you like, that to top it all off, in my opinion, that's a lot of parallels, or a lot of reflection of our society. We talk about, and it's great to celebrate the wins. It's great to celebrate the famous people, or the successful people. Those are great, um, events for us to do, because we have to remind ourselves, as a people, it's possible. But the probability, and that's where we get things twisted. I know I got it twisted. There's a difference between using the word probable and possible. They sound very similar. They both start with a P. They both rhyme if you were putting them in a rap song, but they're two different things. They're way two different things. And I think that the person that you were talking about, first of all, it's great that you remember that story as detailed as you did. Then,
Which is
with
surprising
clarity.
because my memory is terrible. I just have these, like, little touchstone moments. There's things I remember times like that, and then there's other times when I don't remember people I've hung out with, like, 10 times. Like, I'm like, I don't know.
Me
We
too.
got drunk. We got drunk down in, some town, like, we got drunk somewhere in, like, Tallahassee or something. I'm like, I don't remember anything.
Man,
So,
I've been through those
yeah.
stories, and it's funny how our brain works like that. But I do think that the person that you were talking to, that guy was definitely a reflection on our everyday situation and scenarios. And it's great that you mentioned that it was a therapeutic moment for him, because even if he didn't understand it at that time, I'm assuming it had an impact on him, that I just met this person, you were a stranger to him, and I'm coming up with 99 excuses on why I can't change my situation, or why I
Yeah,
can't do better. And I think that we all, even the successful people, have had those instances in their lives. Or they've
for
made
sure.
excuses. Now, the successful people doing way less, those
Yeah.
who are succeeding do it way less. So that's the beauty of it. But we've all had that situation. And I think that it is something, a lot of people do more, and having those moments of therapy, or just getting therapy. I have to be, very blunt about that. I think that that guy just probably needed therapy.
He
So there
did,
are
yeah.
therapeutic situations, but he may have needed that. And I remember you telling me, that you went through it. I told you I've gone through it. I've just started going through it, and it only because of getting therapy, not just having conversations that are therapeutic,
Yeah.
that I feel that I'm maintaining some consistency in the healing, in the admitting, in the accountability versus like every time you have to tell your story to somebody new, you can create these new excuse. Like a person can't remember
Yeah.
last time you told me you're going to do that. Well, you ain't do it this time.
Yeah. 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 There was a lot of that at bars. Like I would talk with people, um, and all those kind of circumstances just fade into them. Like I remember ones that are like really vivid, like that dude. But there's a lot of them where they're just like they all just morph into the same thing. And every once in a while, I find myself being like, "Oh, I think that story just like they all just kind of like fuse together at one point."
Yeah.
Um, but like I had so many times where like I would be at a bar when I was on the road, and I've talked about this part a lot, where it's like you're an outsider, and a lot of these, particularly the really smaller towns I would visit, go out of my way to just kind of go off in the little side roads and go take the long route. If I'm going from St. Petersburg to New Orleans, it's like I took a lot of like weird routes that were off the main highways because I just wanted to experience those towns, and a lot
Yeah.
of those towns they don't get tourists. Like, you're either passing through or somebody there, or you used to
Right.
live there. I mean, there's really some of these places are so off like off the path that there's no reason for you to be there. So often in these towns, like people would, the local drunk that loves talking a lot will look at you and be like, "Oh, you're a new target." I can tell all
Yep.
my stories too. But the thing that was interesting is that sometimes after that person would leave or you don't the bartender would be like, "Yeah, half that shit didn't happen," because they overhear it. And they're like, "Yeah, half that shit didn't happen." He's like, "Yeah, whatever." It's just really interesting to see that though. Like they're
Right.
projecting an image and they're telling stories in a way that makes them look good, but it's like to what end? Like it goes back to the vanity metric. It's like I don't know you. It's
Right.
we established within like the first minute that I'm passing through and I'm traveling, and we're never gonna meet again outside of some crazy cosmic circumstance where we're probably never gonna recognize each other, you know?
Right.
So it's just like, what does it matter? Like, why don't you just expose your soul? Because there's no downside. And some people would open up to that. Some people, it was like that dude a little bit. Like, he started opening up a little bit, and it became very to your point, like, it became very obvious that he wasn't talking with any of his friends about
Hmm.
these things because he had this cold exterior, hard exterior he was projecting, so he couldn't show
Right.
any sort of vulnerability. Um, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know why people do that. I mean, it's the same thing as, like, wanting to get your photo taken, but you don't want the actual photo. It's like, what the fuck's the point, And I don't I don't get that. I don't get that. Like, I look at everything as an opportunity. Like, this conversation, the reason I'm directing it or whatever is because, like, I don't even look at it that way, but it's like I'm genuinely curious about your story, your history. I'm generally curious about your journey and what insights you've
Right.
picked up. Some of the other
Right.
podcasts I've been on, like people are just asking these banal fucking questions and they're pre-scripted. Like some people want me when they want me, they ask me to be on a podcast. They'll be like, "Oh, well, what questions do you want me to ask you?" And I'm like,
Right.
first of
Here's
all,
your
that's
list of
your fucking
topics
job.
right here.
Yeah, that's your fucking job as a podcaster. I'm not doing your work for you. But second of all, it's like that's fucking boring. I don't
Right.
wanna know what you're gonna ask me. Like, I
But
want
it's easy though. It's
it's
like
easy.
it's easy. Like
Yeah, the
it's
most interesting shit is when, like, I say something or you say something, and we've never thought of that before. That's where the gold is, you know?
I agree. I agree. I
Yeah,
don't think a lot of people value that as much as they should.
yeah,
To your exact point, and I think it's a great ability for both, for all parties involved to be able to learn one, kind of like a lost technique of improv, improvisation. Being able to
yeah,
just or freestyle as we call it in the rap community or the hip hop community, when you
yeah,
just freestyle, you going off the top of the head, off the top of the dome, right? And in the marketing community, we call that organic content and being, non repurposed original content,
mhm,
basically. Like there's so many words for it in all these different aspects of life for just being able to speak on off the top of your mind, your thoughts, but still be able to articulate yourself as clearly as possible without being afraid that it's okay to make a mistake because you're human. Like there's all these nuances that you have to, think about. And I think, to going back to your story with the guy at the bar, that I think it does, there are many things that can influence that, but I feel like relationships are one of the biggest keys that can influence that, because if you're not surrounding yourself with the right people, if you aren't talking to people, not saying you got to tell everybody all your business, but to have that core group of friends and you're telling your truth to, I think it helps you learn that there is less downside to the exposing yourself, being open, being honest, because otherwise you got to think of it from the other person's perspective, like that all they see is the downside. So for us to like look at a person's perspective and say like, yeah, if you tell me your truth and expose yourself, because the bartender's going to tell me anyway. You're basically the metaverse before the metaverse. Like you're
Yeah, yeah,
projecting this what you want to be versus who you really are at me, because you're AKA a regular. Like it's okay, but you can do better. And how you do
yeah,
better is you surround yourself with a better group of people, and you get the right help that you need.
yeah, yeah. It's just you made a good point where it's like, uh, you don't know what the upside is if you never experienced it. So all you see is like the fear.
Right.
So it's like like you said, it's like it's easy for you and I to be like, "Hey, tough shit, just figure it out. It's gonna work out. If you want to change it, change it." But to them, they've never taken a risk like that, so they don't know. They haven't experienced any sort of upside. So it's just,
Right.
and that's the thing. Like, I always try and ask questions that make them feel, they make them um project an imagined future. So there's two ways I would put this. One I already touched on earlier, which is like, hey, imagine it's like 10 years from now, you just got diagnosed with cancer.
Hmm.
And now they kind of go into the future and they're thinking about that. And they're like, oh fuck, would you regret not having done these things? And then it feels more like a loss rather than a potential.
Right.
And I do the same thing with clients. I ask a question that I uh I stole from Blair Enns and he everyone's always like, that's a fucking good question. I'm like, I didn't come up with it. But um he's just like, you talk with a client, and it's like the first meeting, or you're doesn't matter. You're in like a sales situation. And you just say, imagine it's 3 years from now. You and I are getting coffee, or we're having a beer, or insert the blank,
Hmm.
and you are over the moon happy with what what the results of what we've worked on over the last 3 years. What the fuck did I do to make you so happy? And I love that question because it's
Mm.
it's creating a kind of a flag, it's planting a flag to an imagined future, and they
Right.
start thinking about the tangible aspects of us working together and getting those results, because now they're thinking about, oh, okay, well, it's 3 years from now. We've 3x the company. Our revenue's up. We got great retention. I feel comfortable that if I want, I could exit in the next year or two, and I feel
Right.
like where I'm not stressed, and I feel confident in that. And they'll tell me that, and I'm like, "Okay, you don't give a fuck about SEO. You don't give a fuck about any of this
Right.
marketing shit. What you actually care about is feeling like you've made the progress that you want, and
Right.
that you are confident in that, and that you can achieve what you want, which is to exit and get a couple $1,000,000 and do whatever the hell you want to do, whether that be
Right.
retire
Right.
or start something else or whatever. That's what you actually want. So how can I help you get there? And that completely reframes the conversation. And I can't tell you how many times people have like come to me because they're like, they want help with SEO, which is people listening, search engine optimization. So optimizing your website for Google, search engines, all that shit. That's kind of my specialty if I had to pick one tool in the marketing toolkit. And but most of the time, people don't have an SEO problem. They have a marketing problem, and they actually don't have a marketing problem. That's just one step up. What they really have is a positioning and a messaging problem, and what they
Right.
really have is a business problem.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're trading up the chain there, and I'm always trying to pull away from the fractional nature, and almost always, even if I'm still helping them with SEO, I'm having a conversation with them about the larger picture. Like, that's
Yes,
actually happened
that's
several times where people have referred me for marketing stuff, and I end up just helping them as a business strategist. And I'm not saying all this to jerk myself off. It's that all this shit applies to the same thing in life. Like, people think they have a
yeah,
fractional problem. They think they have, like, the one person was just like, well, I don't like my job. It's like, okay, that, and I don't actually remember the specifics of that one dude in Akron's, when it came to
what
whatever
was
the
his
hell we started the conversation with,
right,
like, whatever the initial problem was, I don't remember, but I just remember eventually we got to the point that he wanted to travel and he felt stuck with his girlfriend and whatever, and, it's like if you use another example, it's like, "Okay, I don't like my job." It's like, "Why do you not like your job?" It's like, "Well, because, all the bullshit, people don't like their job. My boss is an
right,
asshole, whatever." But it's like, "Okay,
right,
beyond that, you could get another job." You're like, "No, I don't really wanna be around here. Like, I don't really like any of the jobs around here." It's like, "Do you not like the jobs around here, or do you not like being around here?"
right,
I don't actually like being around here." "Where would you like to go?" "I don't know." "Do you like traveling?" "Yeah." "Do you wanna go experience a bunch of shit?" "Yeah."
right.
Okay, what's keeping you? "Oh, my girlfriend," etcetera, etcetera. So it's just like, I think people are just afraid to fucking it's like they're afraid to pull the carpet up because they're afraid that the fucking the wood is rotted and there's mold and shit below that. So they'd rather just act like there's nothing there. Like, I'm just gonna vacuum the carpet and everything's fine. It's like, no, you need to deal with that because eventually the fucking floor's gonna cave in. But they're
You
just like,
gotta take
well,
out the trash. Can't
yeah,
just
it's like
spray air
I'm just
freshener
hoping.
over it.
I'm hoping that I, get out of this rental in 2 years before that happens, not my problem. It's like yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you said it. It's basically about pulling back those layers. It's about going a few levels deep. I remember when I first read It Starts With Why, I
Yeah,
believe by Simon Sinek, and he wasn't the first person I heard this method, but I love the way he put it because Tony Robbins said it in a way, and then one of my favorite leaders, John C. Maxwell. Basically, they were saying use the 7 levels of why exercise,
yeah,
but it was like It Starts With Why that really resonated with me. I actually tried in the method, which is ask yourself, why do you want this? And go 7 levels. Ask yourself why 7 times. Why do you want to quit this job? Because they're not paying me enough. Well, why do you feel like you're not getting paid enough? Or because I deserve more money. Why do you feel like you
mhm,
deserve more money? Because I want, and you just keep doing that till you get to about, when you get to that 5, 6, and 7, all the
yeah,
going back to the vanity scenarios goes out the window when you start to get a lot deeper and you start to uncover why you really want something. And I feel like it's very synonymous with your situation, my situation, because for me, it was like, okay, I want to be a entrepreneur. I want to, live this life where I don't have to basically work a 9 to 5 job. So I started with the music and entertainment, but really it formulated into I really just want to create content. 'Cause that was the way I created content. Picked up the camera. Well, I really just want to help people do better themselves and show themselves better in light. Okay, well, let me help them with this marketing. Well, I really want to help people um, figure out what their GPS is and like prepare them and set them up and not actually like manage their quote unquote messaging. Oh, that's really branding. So over time, I had to learn what it really was that I was striving to do. Um, that was my kind of like life events of going 7 layers, but asking myself the questions of, well, why do I really want this? Why do I really want to be successful? I think for anybody, it's a great exercise to practice. It's something that when you get deeper and deeper and deeper, you start to uncover so many different nuances about yourself personally that you may not have admitted before, like said out loud. You may have
yeah,
felt these things, but you just never said them out loud. And I think it does go in life. It's great to use it in business. I know you do. That's why I stopped doing the SEO. Like, I actually started in Austin. The funny part is like when I was in Austin and this whole South by Southwest and Eureka moment was happening, I had a web developer neighbor. I was living with a friend, and his neighbor took me in, and that was literally my first introduction into marketing.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and I bluffed my way in because I said, "Hey, I can do SEO," and he was actually a real developer, and then he had a couple other staff members on his team, and I didn't know crap about SEO. I didn't know shit about that, but I knew that I can do it, so I started my way into it, and then now to this day, this is like over 10 years later, I'd rather refer my client to somebody like you because I really learned, like, no, this is not me from an interest-based standpoint, even though I
Yeah.
understand the components of it.
Yeah, your story is pretty much the gold standard in the SEO community. People get into it, they have no idea what the fuck they're doing, but
No
SEO is kind of like
idea.
the thing about SEO is that, like, nobody actually 100% knows because
Right.
Google is a black box. You don't know what their algorithm is.
Right,
Now, if
right,
you've been doing
always
this long
changing.
enough, I mean, there's the intuitive understanding, but if you've been doing this long enough, you got a pretty good fucking idea. But,
Yeah,
if you're starting most people, 99.9% of people that have any reason to touch SEO, whether they're a web developer, they work at a business that does market, it doesn't fucking matter. If you have any reason to touch it, you usually have no fucking clue, you know? So,
right,
like, people can just bullshit, but I don't actually care about SEO in it of itself. I care about when it comes to the strategy behind it. Like, because people look at it differently. I'm not trying to like go down a rabbit hole, but I think this is actually interesting. I started off doing that because it's just like, hey, my dad's tree service. I wanted to help him. I built this website for him, and I was very proud of it, particularly for back
right,
then. It was a very nice website, and I was very proud of it. I'm like, well, I want more people to find it. And then I started looking into how to do that, and I got into SEO, and that was really easy back then. And then I'm like, wow, there's a lot of power behind this shit. Then I started
right.
doing it for his business friends and other people, and like my chiropractor and a bunch of other shit. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is actually changing people's lives, like their livelihood. It's getting them business and
Right,
it's doing all this other stuff. That's what called me to it. And now it's like looking at like, how you can actually use search data, like what people are searching for on Google to figure out what people's pain points are. What are
right.
the problems that
Absolutely.
people are having? What are the unmet needs? And then you can use that to develop your product or your service. And there's so many different ways you can look at it. I'm like, that's fucking cool because if you're doing SEO right, conceptually, you're solving problems, you know?
Right.
And that's one of the things that with my clients I really like is that I try to work, pretty much only with purpose-based brands.
Okay.
Only exception would be if like I just really like the founder and I think they're a really good person and they're doing something cool. But that's, 95% of the time, 99% of the time, like I'm working with purpose-based brands. And like that's the thing is sometimes like there are people out there that have like really big issues
Right,
and they
right,
can't find a solution. But that solution exists. So
right.
it's like it's just what you're doing is being SEO is like being a matchmaker. You're just telling Google, "Hey, this thing exists, and I know there's people looking for it, and I'm
Right.
trying to help Google say, hey, we got a match here,' and letting it go." That's cool to me. It's this the inner workings of SEO. I could give a shit less about. It's boring, Like I
It can be
whenever it
pretty
comes
boring.
it's boring as shit. It's like whenever it comes to technical SEO, like I got a dude that is amazing. He's a wizard. I just send people to him because it's just like I don't really care about that. I can do that, but it's boring to me. So it's just like, but that's the same thing with anything, any sort of job. Like
It can definitely
it's
get it. I could say it definitely gets that way, and it is a because you made a good point as far as the connection aspect of it. And I'll extend that point and say it to me, it's a reflection of how we think, it's a reflection of people. And it's just being done in a digital way with algorithms boosting it behind it. But anytime I talk to either a client about it or an associate or a colleague, and I talk to them about SEO, normally I just mentioned Google because it's like they own 80+ percent of the market share of
yeah,
the internet, especially in America. So it's like there's no reason to talk about any other scenario when you talk about optimizing for the search engine. However, I don't like to get that nerdy with it. When I first started off, I would compensate for my lack of experience with my knowledge of the terminology. And I
yeah,
think a
yeah,
lot of people do that when they first started, and it goes back to the Albert Einstein quote. You don't know it till you know it simply, till you simply can explain it. I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing, but that's how it was for me. So it was like, yeah, I can use all this jargon talk and explain to people all the technical terms of and all the factors, ranking factors, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, when I talk to people about it, I literally walk them through. I said, let's go to Google. I said, stop thinking how you think.
Yeah.
How would the people you're target? Because we all use terms and words, especially in our industries, that that's the way that we say it, or that may be the under the table way. But is that really the way how the public is saying it? And
Yeah.
even if you don't want to say it that way, that's okay. You can have your way, but you have to have your way while playing the game, while working within the system. So you can't just be like, well, I'm calling this thing blue dots, and then the rest of the world is calling it red dots. Okay, optimize or do your tweaking so that way you can show up for the red dots. And then when you get them, okay, hey guys, over here, this is how we really say it. And people don't think of it that way. They don't look at it as a producer, they look at it as a consumer, whereas they're typing something in and it finds them what they're looking for. Whereas when you're using it to your advantage as a business, or as a student, or any of those natures, when you start to think like, wow, this thing is reflecting the majority of how people think and how they talk. And if I use this in a way where I'm trying to figure how people think and how people talk by allowing this tool to assist me in what are the words, what are the phrases, what are the concepts, I'm gonna fucking win because
Yeah.
this is the majority here, no matter
Yeah.
how much I think.
Yeah. It goes back to the great philosopher Joe Dirt.
I
It's not
love
about
that
what
show.
you it's not about what you like. It's about the consumer.
It's
It's like,
about because
yeah, and people they over it I think there's so many parallels just with, like, people's life paths, so they get so fucking deep down the rabbit hole of, like, what they want or what they wanna project to the world
yes,
or how they
yes,
wanna interface with it, but they don't think about, like, what is. I had one client once, and
right.
they're great, they're fantastic, and they got this right away, but they had this mindset that I thought really was putting unnecessary governors on them, and they're in the sustainable product space, and they had a sustainable
Hmm.
product, and
Hmm.
they're like, well, we don't want to use the word, sustainable, insert the blank product. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because there actually is no sustainable item that you can make in this industry. It's not 100% sustainable. There is always going to be waste. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I didn't know that. I'm actually fairly well versed in the sustainable space at that time. I'm like, I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense the second you say that, but maybe there's some sort of way. I'm like, I didn't know that. Most consumers are definitely not going to know that.
Right.
However, all your competitors that I'm seeing are using that. We are the most sustainable X,
Right.
or we are a sustainable, X product. And I'm like, here's the thing, you can still use those words. And then when you get them on that page, you can say, "Hey,
There you go.
we are the most sustainable X possible because there actually isn't anything as 100% sustainable, but we try to be the most sustainable possible. Here's our process. Do you want to read more about our sustainability and our whatever?" And then what's going to happen is that now that what they're, if they're doing what everybody does on Google, it's like you open up 5 tabs,
Yeah.
they're now going to read yours, and then they're going to either go back to the ones that they already saw or the ones that they're going to see after. They're going to be like, "Oh, these fuckers are lying. They're saying they're 100% sustainable.
Right.
That's not
Right.
right." They instantly have a distrust for all those other brands, and they have a ingrained trust with this brand who's being truthful.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, it's not about it's not, you can be ethical and still do that stuff at the same time. And I think that's I always think about that, like, what's the backdoor method? Like, how can I get my foot in the door? And this goes back to fucking what you're talking about in Austin, like you just being like, I got a camera, I want to get access to shit. Have a camera, take photos, and then you could form relationships with people. And if there's a natural alignment and it's not forced, boom, you just made introductions with people. You
Yep.
know, it's like if you don't know anybody and you're just a random dude going to South by Southwest, the chances of you bumping into somebody that is really credentialed in their career, an influencer or whatever, very
Hmm.
small. You're just
Hmm.
going to be on the floor. You're not going to be whatever. You got a camera, you can get access to shit. And then it comes to, like, are you a cool person? Or, are you an interesting person? Are you a person that would be interesting? And if
Yes.
you are, you're gonna make connections, you know? It
Yes.
so it's just like you can apply that to anything. I don't know, people just get really I think the overall commonality here is, like, people get fucking lazy, and they look at a roadblock as a definitive thing, when I am
Mm.
me personally, just speaking for myself, I'm always thinking about what's another way? What's another way? Or how can I hit several targets with a single stone? Like, how can I, like, hack this? I'm always looking at how you can hack things. Um, so I'm curious. So you came back, uh, did the Austin thing, you had some kind of detours, you went to Tampa, you came back to Cleveland. And then is that when you're like, "Hey, I wanna help, entrepreneurs, artists, and content creators that are people of color," like, what I mean, it seems pretty self-evident to me, like, why you would wanna do that based on your story, but was there any specific what brought you specifically to that mission?
No, that's a good question because it didn't happen immediately.
Mm,
And so that's why it is something that's more recent. If you had to ask me that a few years ago, I wouldn't have an answer for you because I wasn't in that direction. Even though, like you said, I had all the ingredients to be in that direction.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was really when I came back to Cleveland is when I started the agency, the Iconic Expressions, and that was my agency that I was and it's so funny that I started it off as video and photography, and then it moved into the marketing, and then I realized that I was a cow kind of hee-hawing like a donkey, that it was really branding that I was doing, but I had to, like,
yeah,
unpack these layers over time, like, I'm not really doing this what I thought I was doing, and I think that most industries, most businesses and industries can relate to that where you started is not necessarily where you are year 3, year 4, year 5, as far as the business model is concerned, or just some services or offerings. So for me, like that was the biggest thing is going through that hump of, okay, my first LLC failed when I was in my 20s. Now I'm in my 30s. I've gone through life. I've traveled across the country. I've made some great moves as far as relationships and connections. I've made some bad mistakes as far as not making better decisions. It's a plethora of things that I went through, and then moving back to Cleveland again, would mainly because things didn't necessarily work out in Tampa. And the DJ that I had mentioned before, that I had lived with in Columbus said, like, I didn't have my feet underneath me. And looking back,
mhm,
I understand more why he said that. But that really kind of got me to believe, okay, I can do this. I can help serve people of all colors, of all creeds, of all cultures. So when I started the agency, it had nothing to do with me targeting a specific type of person. I was really more targeting people in certain positions,
huh,
certain
okay,
certain industries. It wasn't until the pandemic happened, until a lot of the disproportionate opportunities, and I had mentioned it before, but in this situation, I'm literally talking about enduring the time of, the pandemic, the C word, because I don't know if you put this on YouTube. I don't want to, how YouTube is. So yeah, it started
yeah,
off with that, and I
sad
was
times.
right, right. I was in my apartment, and this is the crazy part, and this is again part of my transparency. I would be so ashamed to say this years ago. I really would, but not only has therapy really helped me in so many ways, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to do it, but also realizing that I'm not perfect, it's okay, has helped me be able to like tell my story transparently without trying to like weed my way out of certain situations that may seem ugly. And for me to have my first apartment, I've roommated with so many people, paid rent. I got used to that whole thing. But for me to have my first apartment underneath my name at the age of 33, the same year that the pandemic hits, for me that was a milestone, as well as like one of those big crying Shawshank Redemption moments. Like I
Yeah,
finally
yeah.
got out of that fucking sewer. I was like, ah, like
Yeah,
that was a
yeah,
moment for me. So during that time, I was blessed to get my first apartment that came from my own money. I was paying with money I was making off the agency. I also got some supportive help, which helped me balance out my personal spends versus my business spends because I was awarded the PPP. money and the SBA loan, which most Black entrepreneurs and minority entrepreneurs, Latin entrepreneurs didn't get. Score put out a report, and this report is what caused me to make this definitive move and make this huge move of saying, okay, I need to shift my agency and my education. So shift my whole service model, service provider thought process from the education, and I need to separate them. I was
Mm,
out for a long time. I was educating my clients too much because I'm a passionate teacher. Josh, I can't tell you how many times that fucked up my money because
yeah.
they just wanted the result. And because the lack of my portfolio experience, I would educate them, try to show them the trick behind the curtain. I would try to earn their trust by telling them so much of what I was doing. And then they just wanted the result. And so I realized that no, like stop educating people so much with the service model, move that to a blog, move that to a subsidiary brand, move that somewhere else where people who just want to do it themselves, who want to know the magic behind the magician, who want that extra support and they can't afford, high end services, create a platform for them, create something for them. And it was only because of the score reports of how much people that were in the minority sector did not get any money. They didn't get any help. They didn't get any loans. I mean, when I say not any, I mean like a small proportion of people got that. That disgusted the fuck out of me. And I was
Yeah.
like, I see a lot of opportunity. I know that there's platforms out there that are catering towards people, not just of color, but women-based businesses as well too. LGBTQ plus community. I'm talking about people with disabilities. Like I know that there's separate platforms, but I want to create a platform that kind of molds us all together and then gives you the opportunity to learn the things that I know and from my other constituents and colleagues that I'm bringing onto the table because I can't do this myself. I can't teach people by myself. So I want to create something that we can all collectively help educate others.
Oh yeah. Like, that's a dope, a really needed um component. There was a stat that I think you posted the other day on LinkedIn that the second I saw it, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense, but it was still a fucked up stat where it's like the like 90 something percent of
Oh yeah,
entrepreneurs,
yeah.
yeah,
90,
yeah,
ninety six
people,
percent of 80 about 80% of minorities are sole proprietors. And then
yeah,
about 90 high 90s, 96% of black entrepreneurs are sole proprietors. And why that was significant for me, I mean, and I think that that matters to many people, but for me in particular in my business model, it's one of those things where I connected the dot. Oh, this makes sense. Okay, my agency and my services, if I'm going after just African Americans or a minority community, my sample size of opportunity dramatically shrinks. Like out of
yeah,
100 people, if only 20 people or 10 people are quote unquote actually LLCs, have employees or they're S corporations, that means that the rest of the people are one man bands, one woman bands. And with that, typically comes the budgeting issue.
yeah,
There's not many solo people out there. This is just reality. This is not like anything I'm making up. There are not many people that are sole proprietors making over 100K a year.
yeah,
So when you think of it that way, I that's what also made me realize I'm glad I did what I did, even if I didn't know the numbers until more recently. But this whole time I'm working with, solopreneurs with the mindset of big offerings. They can afford these offerings. So that's another reason why I'm glad that it was time for me to separate the two and target this blog, this resource center, this opportunity for people to learn DIY, do it themselves. Target that to solopreneurs and not to LLCs or other businesses because 96% of minorities of black people are sole proprietors. So why would I talk to
yeah,
them as if they have a whole bunch of employees?
yeah, and that's super. I mean, that kind of analysis is super smart. David C. Baker wrote a book. We might have mentioned this in our last conversation. I don't remember, but David C. Baker wrote a book called The Business of Expertise, and he's kind of known as like the consultant for consultant. And he works predominantly with like marketing and strategy and consulting agencies. And like what's interesting about him is he's worked with thousands and thousands of different agencies and consultancies. So he kind of sees he has an interesting 10,000-foot view on the industry in which very few people
Hmm.
do. What are the commonalities? What's, the highs and the lows? And he also sends out these kind of yearly anonymous surveys and polls all these people and gathers some really interesting insights. But, he talks about like doing basically what you did. Like you have to look at what industry you're in or your target audience or whatever, and then you have to see how many like how big is that sample size? How many
Yeah.
possible clients do you have? And then realistically, you want to niche down enough where you are specific enough where you can directly address their needs in a way that almost nobody else can, but you also
Right.
don't want to be too specific where you just don't have enough viable clients to make it work.
Right.
So
Right.
I think it's super smart that you did that. But yeah, it was interesting like seeing those stats because I'm just like, man, if the vast majority of black entrepreneurs are sole proprietors and they make under $100,000 a year, and then the vast majority of them didn't get a PP, the PPE, um, it's just like Jesus Christ, like those are people that are like my dad, they're sole, they have they're by themselves and they're feeding their family. It's just
Right.
like that, and it's crazy to think about that. And then I think about all the businesses that I'm aware of that got it that really frankly didn't need it. And the whole thing's just
Man,
fucked,
but it makes so much sense, and for people to just blindly comment on the subject matter that don't because there were a lot of people talk it's like it was like religion and politics, like the whole like it got that deep. It's as deep as the vaccine. Like we're very it's taboo to talk about certain subjects, right? And it's crazy
Yeah,
in our society now that the vaccine has met the likes of religion and politics as far as being taboo or being very polarizing of a conversation. So
yeah,
to that point, I feel like what a lot of people don't understand and why that number is important because everything's connected. Well, if you have the majority of a certain culture that are registered as sole proprietors and not LLCs, meaning possible having more employees or even S corps or C corps or whatever the case is, um, there's more likely chance that they're not doing their taxes or not doing them correctly. There's more likely chance that they're not creating some type of separation from their personal and their business. There's more likely of a chance that they don't have business credit or credibility. I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm saying there's more likely of a chance. And that's what the PPP, that's what a loan is all about. Like they weren't just giving that money just on the basis because they had to or by some decree of law or ordinance or whatever the case is. There's also some technical aspects, paperwork you had to fill out that let them know this is who you are and this is who you're not.
yeah,
And if those qualifications didn't match up to the kind of person that they were looking for, again, in my opinion, it was unfair. But I do see the technical reasonings and some of the behind the scenes aspects of, oh, it makes sense why most black people or Latin people did not get as much money as others did. And it's because of, oh, they're sole proprietors. Well, had they been LLCs, most likely they probably would have had some type of business separation, credit XYZ, and maybe they would have had a better chance.
yeah,
That to me connects more than just the whole the government or the organizations or the people, the banks that were loaning this money. It makes more sense to me than they were just like saying, no, we're purposely just gonna do this to say no just to do it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's usually not like an institutional reason for it. At that level of scale, it's just like you said, the systems are improperly optimized for the wrong things, and
Yes.
and it's like for me, it's like if I'm gonna apply to something like that, it's just like just have my CPA like, hey, go do that. I'm not gonna do it myself. And the thing is like that is the difference.
That is the difference.
Like I have a CPA that like I can just say, hey, I want to apply for this, or do you think I qualify for this? And then she's gonna handle it. It's
Right,
gonna come from her. It's gonna have her
right,
signature on it.
right,
She's a professional that has a relationship with the IRS. Like
right, right,
she can navigate that. If they say no, she can push back and she knows how to push back.
right.
Like, and yeah, a lot of sole proprietors don't have access to that. at all,
No,
and so it's
no.
just like, and a lot of the things is like I have to imagine like, if you're a person of color, it's like you're probably not a part of like a lot of those old good old boy networks where everyone's sitting around and referring people, you
Right,
know. Oh
right.
yeah, okay. You need to talk to my CPA or whatever. It's like a lot of the business. Have to imagine there's a lot of fractionalization. If you're a minority and you're in the business community. I mean, I know that's certainly the case with a lot of the female entrepreneurs and founders that I know.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter their race. Like, I think it's like single digits, like 7% or 4% or something like that, like single digits, female founders like
Mm,
get funding. It's ridiculous. And I know
right,
several female founders that have struggled to raise money for projects that easily would have gotten funding if they were a male, a dude,
right, right.
and they have credentials that are insane. One actually told me that one of the VCs said, "Oh, this is kind of similar to this other idea that these other two guys are coming up with." Coming up with. They didn't even have anything established. She had been doing this for 2 years and had
Crazy.
all the data, and they're like, "Maybe you could partner with them."
Yeah,
And
that's
like, even if like, you look at that from the best perspective, maybe he's just like, "Hey, there's some synergy here. Maybe you can, like the minds of Ultron, you can come together and be stronger than, the individual parts." Even if you're giving him like the most charitable perspective, they should be coming to her.
yes.
She's got a background that is, from what I gather, like way more credentialed than these two people. And she's also got a 2-year head start on them, and they don't even have a pitch deck together, you know? So
Right.
it's absurd. Like, it's just a fucking absurd. Like, I'm kind of curious to dive into this. Is like, I felt imposter syndrome, and I had a grave difficulty with my agency, both internally and perhaps my perceived perception of it was worse than the reality. I don't really know, but it was still pretty noticeable when I was starting the agency and building it because I'm in my early 20s. I look like
Mhm,
I'm 12,
mhm,
and I would have people be like, "Oh, you're my son's age," or even worse, "You're my grandson's age." And I'm
mm.
supposed to be, like, directing their marketing. It's like,
Yeah.
what was your experience both as an individual, but also, like, a person of color? It's like, I have to imagine that's significantly like, worse in a way, like, that kind of, like, I don't know, that infantilization. I don't know, like, it's just weird. Like, I think of a lot of the older, like, white people that, like, I deal with, and they're just they have fucking really backwards perceptions of things. I don't need to fucking tell you that.
Man,
So it's
I
just like,
mean, I can it's I think that I think every person, who is a minority, specifically, Black or Latin, that are in the marketing businesses or the marketing industry, but the type of businesses has ran into an issue. Because, and the reason why I say this is because the reality is the marketing world is not run by African Americans or Latins or Hispanics. It's a predominant
oh, yeah,
white male. It's more
yeah,
specifically, dominated market industry, point blank, period. And
yeah,
so, if you're going to play in that game, that we're talking about here. This is not the NBA we're talking about, where it's a little bit more diverse, in that realm. If you're going to play in this game, and you really want to profit, you want to make some money. Now you can decide to niche and go specifics, but as we talked about before, your chances of success lessens because sample size or total addressable market. If you decide to play with everybody, all the boys and the gals, you're going to run into issues and situations where you're going to have people that are more skeptical just because of the color of your skin, not because of your credentials or skill sets or what you bring to the table. It's literally just because of the color of your skin, meaning that they're going to ask you more questions. They're going to give you more rebuttals or more objections. They're going to test you more, in certain ways. And something for me, I learned that back in 2000 and we'll say 12, 13, not, excuse me, not 2012, but back in 2017, excuse me, it was 17 or 18, where I had got put on a marketing project. And this was my first biggest marketing project. And I came on to do a marketing strategy for a very wealthy boutique organic clothing company called Yaya and Co. I don't give a fuck anymore. and yeah, and so one of
I
their
like it.
biggest bragging points were, one of our biggest clients is Mariah Carey. Like they would always brag about that shit. Anyways, I was the only man on this team. It was a friend of mine that brought me on. She was the project manager. I was the marketing strategist. There was a designer who was the brand designer, and then there was a web developer, which I believe was her husband, and there was a copywriter, which was another woman. I was pretty much the only man because we never met the web developer guy. So I was in the room with all women. These two ladies that ran this company were women. They were from a different country. All the women around me are white women, and they're like women that I know, we're close, we're cool. I'm the only male and black person in the room. There were so many times where the two owners of this company brought up their ideologies or brought up politics in the context of our business meetings, where we're going to their warehouse to meet with them over this project. And they would talk about Trump and talk about this, why they would vote for him, why he's this and that. And despite my perspective or which angle that it was just the fact that they had the audacity to keep bringing this up. And then they would look at me almost like, what are you going to say? What are you going to do? Without saying the
Jesus
shit.
Christ.
So to have that
Yeah.
kind of a feeling, um, and then knowing that, yeah, I get what their views are and that they're very feminist type of women. So we have the feminism, but then we have the Trump support, which is so weird because it's like the fucking opposite, in my opinion. But that's a whole
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
story. So they have this kind of mix of dynamics to be in this position, and then they're paying me a substantial amount of money to create this marketing strategy. Oh yeah, like they definitely tested me a lot more than I'm sure that they would have one of my counterparts or somebody else that they would have brought on board that looked more like them or was their gender. It was a crazy feeling. And one thing that I also would say connected with this to what you were saying before, I was watching this seminar, and then one of the speakers, I forgot who exactly it was, but the speaker had put on a stat that had said, and this is what I had already knew, that the moment you put a black face on a marketing website as the owner, the conversions automatically drop by exponential percent. And the
Wow.
audience was predominantly white. There were some black people and other people, but and they all were like, their jaw dropped because the camera panned to the audience. And the speaker, he was a white man. So to hear him say this and it say this out loud to a group of upcoming marketers, like the moment that you put an African American on the heading in the banner section of a website, conversions drop automatically like that. So then I started noticing a pattern in my community of other black marketers that purposely wouldn't put their face on the header section of their website and would put this generic picture or photo just so that they can have an even or a balanced playing opportunity in their field.
That's fucked up. Yeah. That's a weird thing is like, if you, I think that stat is really important, but also you have to really be careful of how you would share that with the world. How do you think I how do you think that was handled? Because I feel like if you were to raise that, it's like, is there actually a way you could publicly say that and not have that extremely negative outcome? Because I feel like that is an
Mm,
important stat because you could be like, hey, as a society, this is fucked. Like, why is this the case? We should analyze this as marketers. How can we how can we level the playing field a little more? And how can what does this say about us? What does this say about? I don't know. I think that's a really interesting uh thing to steep on and to consider. But also, it's like it kind of doesn't really matter the end result of how you package that. The takeaway is just going to
right.
be if you put a black face, your conversion rates go down.
Your conversion rates go down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like,
that
how the fuck do we address? How do we address these issues without having the blowback? You know?
I don't think you can't. Like you can mitigate the blowback by doing it with stats and facts And that's why, I'm purposely letting people know I don't have the exact number, so that way I don't get in trouble. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
encourage anybody listening, look it up. Because again, that's what I love about Google. We can Google this and literally be able to see like how do conversions rates drop when a minority is on the page. And it's not just like marketing world, it's most other situations too. But I think that it's something we as society, just like any other topic that we don't want to address because it's too uncomfortable. I think that it's something that, especially in our industry, we do need to talk about more. But it also goes along the line of how skeptical we are as a people. And then it's like the combination of two things. And there are two separate scenarios, two separate elements happening here. You have the skepticism of an industry and a service, which is marketing, which I was just talking to one of my good friends, and she's also a client. She's a white woman, and she basically, although we were very close about a couple of years ago, she wouldn't work with me because of her experience with marketers, not with black people, but with marketers. So that's
yeah.
one
It's weird.
dynamic. Then you have another experience with working with, or what you think, or how things may go with working with a minority or a black person of color. So you have the marketing part, because marketing has a negative connotation in a lot of ways. Basically, people been
Yeah.
feel like they get burnt by marketers. Like that's
Oh,
what
for
I
sure.
hear
Yeah,
about people who don't do marketing. Man, fuck the marketers. Like, how? What are you gonna do? You're gonna just waste my money? They feel like they've been burned. So you have that scenario.
yeah,
Then you have the scenario of people feeling like because of society, a black person. If I'm walking down the street and there's a group of black people on one side, I probably should walk on the other side of the street. You don't even have to know them, but that's the normality of America, especially in the suburb area.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I see a group of. It doesn't matter. So it's just like I don't get it. It's like the thing about marketing, it makes no sense to me. I remember I had a conversation once with somebody, and they were sitting there, and we had a great conversation. It was actually a date, and like we were vibing really fucking hard, and like then I basically was like, oh yeah, I'm in marketing, and it was just like just straight down. Like she was just like really like upset with me, and she's like, "You're the fucking devil," and I'm just like, and she wasn't that hard about it, but she was like very, very much so like about to like get up and leave. She's just, like, I don't want to work with somebody. I don't want to date somebody, be interested in somebody's marketing. I'm like, why?
Right. Right.
And I'm just like, okay, marketing is just a tool. It's just a process. Like you can be marketing Coca-Cola to, a bunch of kids in a third world country, or you can, do marketing for some amazing nonprofit,
Right.
it doesn't, it's just all it is really storytelling and positioning and whatever. Like it's not inherently evil. I don't,
Right.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Um, so that's it. What was the woman's, like, thought process on, like, why she didn't like marketers? Was it just literally she just got burned and she it's like thinking, like, I don't wanna ever work with a mechanic because I had 1 or 2 that, like, I felt like, were stole a bunch of my money or something. They sold me a bunch of stuff I don't need. It's like,
Yeah,
I don't.
marketers get that sleazy car salesman um cloud over their heads, even though they're two different situations. One is sales, one is marketing, but sales also normally get tied into marketing as if they're like the same thing. And I think that people, for the most part, through my experience and through what I hear, on the streets or in networking events that have dealt with marketers, and this is also speaking of my friend that she had she worked with someone, spent some money, and it didn't go right, or they felt like they overspent. And I think, and this is just my opinion, I think it just becomes dramatically um overly thought about, or it just goes to the extreme as far as the opinion or perspective, because it's tied to a person's quote unquote their dreams and their hopes and what they want to accomplish in life and what they want to do. So when you have a person hurt you in that realm, I think it dramatically looks like a bigger wound than people hurting you almost as equally in other areas of your life, except it's not about your dream per
Yeah,
se.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they did they there was a bunch of, studies that I saw where, um, basically, like, yeah, people that when they saw, the purchase formula, actually, Kenda, one of my previous guests, like, talked about it, is that when people saw price and it was a high price, it actually caused it hit the same signals as pain, like they're being
Yeah,
hurt.
yeah.
And so it's just like, it's yeah, I don't know. I have this conversation all the time with people where it's just like everybody wants to scale and everybody wants to grow. Um, but I always just ask like why? Like why is it that you constantly need to grow and to scale because there's all these other things that you could be doing. Um, so it's like it's odd with the marketing thing where it's like people are essentially um like, I don't know, that's just a fucking weird area to be in where you don't like marketers, I don't get it. I mean, I love Bill Hicks, I've said this a couple times now, but I love Bill Hicks, he's one of my favorite comedians, um, rest in peace and all, but, like, his whole, like, "All marketers should be taken out back and shot," like, the whole bit that he's got, I'm like, yeah, that's great, but, like, that was probably one of the, like I don't know, I always thought that was kinda dogmatic and, like, weird from coming someone from him, it was all peace and love and all the other stuff, but
Right.
it so I don't know, it was all jokes, but what what has been the what has been the commonalities that you've seen working with, like, content creators, minorities that are unique, that you haven't really that what have been the commonalities there compared to, like, your other clients in the past?
Budget is is
Yeah,
is
yeah,
often a topic of discussion, or it's an issue, and I get it, rightfully so. I
yeah,
would say, um, understanding of the service that they're actually getting. That is something I run into a lot when it comes to working with minorities, because they know this term marketing. Most likely they're a solopreneur, so they think that they've been doing marketing themselves because they have the tools and they have the YouTube videos. But then when I let them know, like, no, marketing is not your problem, it's more of a strategy or a branding problem. And then they think that, well, branding is my logo. That's a
mhm,
huge, mistake that I see a lot of entrepreneurs that are minorities make, is thinking that branding is their logo. And then having to convince them, or not convince them, I don't want to use that word, but I would say influence them, because I can't convince or anybody, but influence
yeah,
them that, no, this is this messaging part, these um, elements that are your about your mission and your core values, some things that you've probably already heard before at your job when you were reading the
yeah,
employee manual, but you didn't think how important that was when it came to your business operations, and why, if, in order for you to grow and scale, you are going to need some of these nuances, these elements, these assets in your corner. So that's something that I see very, very often, as a common denominator within, my minority type of clients, or colleagues, or students, peers or pupils, I would say. Um, I feel like those are the main ones. And then you have a couple other ones too that are probably not as big, but besides the budget, besides the knowledge of what marketing is, I would say sometimes it's the registrate going back to the LLC versus the sole proprietor. I see that as something big. I think more than ever now, because of the pandemic. I call it the LLC boom, because there were
mm,
so many people that got their money and started their LLC, or got some money or started LLC just to get some money, or whatever the case is. Until then, I think a lot of minorities didn't understand the value of making themselves connected with their, like, protecting themselves, for lack of a better terms, like doing an LLC for protection purposes. I think a lot of people didn't see that. I think they know a lot more now, but it's still a topic of conversation with sole proprietors, of saying, like, this is probably why you would want to add some separation between you and the business, because if something does go wrong, you want to deal with big money, as you're talking about, because we all talk about big money in our that's not
Yeah.
a black thing or a white thing. That's a universal thing. We talk about big money, then you better talk about big protection. And
Yeah.
one way to
Yeah.
do that is, registering yourself correctly. So I would say those are the main issues that I see often.
Yeah, and then just for people listening, like the main benefit from having an LLC. So if you are a sole proprietor, you can just run a business as your name. So like I can
Right.
just say, "Hey, I'm Josh Boone. I'm a sole proprietor. I'm going to file my taxes that way." And it's very similar from a practical standpoint of the same thing. Like if you are a sole proprietor, but you have an LLC, you can have what's called a pass through LLC, which basically just treats you like a sole proprietorship, but you have that
Right.
buffer of having the legal entity. The reason why you want to do this, and you're absolutely right. I mean, all small businesses, regardless, like have small businesses, like $100,000 or less, like kind of people we're talking about, they all deal with this. Very few of them have an LLC, and it's crazy to me because if you got sued, they can only take the LLC's assets. They can't take your personal assets.
Right.
And that's a very basic insurance. It costs like $100 to file,
Right.
so it's just
Right.
like, and then you could open up a business bank account. If you are thinking about starting a business or you have a business, you haven't done this, go file an LLC. And then once you have an LLC, you're going to be able to get EIN. You're going to be able to get
Right.
a business tax number. Take that and go to your bank, set up a business. I'd recommend a credit union personally, but would do what you want. And open up a business account. Have all your business income come through the business account.
Yes.
And then you can have all your expenses go through that. Keep it separate because at one point you may need that separation. It makes your fucking life when it comes to taxes so much easier because then you just export the stuff out of your business account and you never have to touch your personal account.
Right.
It's
Right.
amazing.
No,
So,
that's
but
it.
do that. It legitimately does not take that much effort. It will save you so much time. And if something like the PPEP comes around again, it's like that's an easy thing to
Th-
do.
there you
Um,
go.
the only time when that can kind of bounce back on you, and there's probably times that I'm not thinking about, but the only time it comes to mind where that isn't the case is like if you do a business loan, but then you personally vouch for it as like a backup on you
Right.
take
Right.
liability. That
That's
ain't
when it
really
gets
going to
into the
protect you.
weeds. That's when you
Yeah,
get into the
yeah,
weeds, and especially for minorities, I think that that's where most people need more education about, like you were talking about, what's the difference between a single member LLC and a multi-member LLC, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that's something that I had to go through. Nobody taught me about. I started my business, the Iconic Expressions, as a multi-member LLC because when I first started it, there was another member partner on the paper, on our bylaws, not bylaws, excuse me, but our articles of organization. And recently, like this past July, he actually passed away. So,
oh,
like,
sucks,
I
man,
had
I'm
a
sorry.
partner that died, and that was something that I didn't see coming. And at the same time, he was not as active in the business, so we had a good friendship. But we also realized that it was me that probably needed to take the leadership role of things, and to go from a multi-member to and then filing taxes as a multi-member, then trying to file taxes now as a single member, like that's something that you don't hear on podcasts, or you don't get um see YouTube videos or many blog posts or content created about how to navigate that space. Like what do you
Yeah,
do between
yeah,
the two? And I think that for people who are just starting out, looking to get into like which route they should go, just start off simple. Do like you said, the $100, or go to LegalZoom, have somebody do it for you. File your If it's just you, just go as a single member LLC. If you're going for the LLC, and then learn over time what the components or what obligations you have to do in order to maintain this entity. What are the benefits that you're going to get from having this entity? But don't get too bogged down with the details in the beginning, because I think that's what creates the whole analysis paralysis phase. And people don't do anything because they get confused, or they get overwhelmed, or they get intimidated, going back to that imposter syndrome part, and they don't make any move at all. But if you just make a move, I promise you, whether you get successful, whether you don't, whether a person, all your people stay as a team, as a unit, or whether you end up breaking up for whatever reason, you all have your exit plan. um, you'll learn it over time. You'll learn it
Yeah.
over time through the experiences, but until then, just start off with protecting yourself. If talking to people who haven't done it yet, start off with protecting yourself. uh do what you love to do, whether it's selling or whether it's teaching or whether it's just offering, and then over time learn about what that protection does for you.
Yeah, I entirely agree. If you find yourself getting stuck and you are having difficulty moving forward, I always recommend just getting the fuck out of your own head, because
Yeah.
often you get overwhelmed. So I would just recommend like get a pad of paper and a pen. Don't bring your laptop with you unless
Don't bring your
and then
laptop.
go to a coffee shop that you feel good. Bring a pair of earbuds or whatever, and
Right.
just breathe. Sit there, first principles, ask yourself, like, what would this look like if this were easy? And then
Right.
just write out the steps. It's insane how easy it is to get unstuck when you're in a new place, you don't have all the chaos around you, you don't have a laptop, you don't have all that outside distraction, and you kind of have the peer pressure in a weird way of like sitting there around a bunch of other people. Some people that work, some people it doesn't.
Right.
Uh yeah, just get started. Just do the MVP. Just get started. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
One rabbit hole that I think would be interesting. You want to keep going for a while?
Yeah, I got time. I'm
Okay,
good.
cool. Let's actually take a break real quick.
Okay.
And then we can keep going a little longer.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Alrighty, and we're back.
We're back.
We we're we're having like a sidebar conversation. I'm like, we gotta cut in. We gotta cut in. Like, this is good. But we were just kind of talking about like this kind of cancel culture going on with YouTube and Rogan and all this shit.
Yeah.
And then like how it's kind of infecting everything. And one of the things I wanted to bring up with you at one point is like, have you seen like the GoDaddy commercials that are going on right now? And I think they're on YouTube and a bunch of other like Hulu or something. And it's like it's literally just like a rooftop, and there's like 4 dudes, and they're black dudes, and then it's just panning over, and they're kinda just nodding their head,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it just goes to, like, GoDaddy, and my partner, she's a person of color, and she's like, "I fucking hate this." She's like, "This is pandering.
It is.
This is like there's no fucking point. Why are a bunch of what is the point of that ad? I don't understand what they're doing with that ad. It's not saying anything other than like we're cool. It's like virtue signaling.
That's
And I'm
it.
like,
That's it.
it just seems hollow. It seems like they're doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I don't get it. Like it my concern is that like I am 120%, 5,000,000% down with more representation in every way.
Right.
As a white male, I am bored by most other white dudes. Like
Right.
we talked about, I think in the last little session that we did, like
Yeah.
I love, regardless of what your experience is, like I love hearing other people's perspectives. Like
Right.
I hate homogenization. So like I love that, but I love that for the sake of it being more of a representation of people as a whole, not like you don't see any fucking Native Americans like in pop culture or anything. Like they don't get represented at all. It's always like just a select group of people, and like I find that weird. Like,
It's
for
pandering,
example,
like
I'm
you said.
polyamorous. I'm polyamorous, and I'm an atheist, and I'm many isms outside of my race and my gender.
Uh-huh.
But like polyamory doesn't get represented at all, and I'm not trying to say that they're the same, but it's like there's a weird thing we have going on with representation, and I am all for the positive elements of it, but it seems like it's being a lot of the time with corporate interests just for the wrong fucking reasons. And I wonder if I think the net I think the net of it is positive,
Mhm.
but it is kind of odd, and I feel like there is kind of this undertow of blowback that is like manifesting, and I think that's one of the reasons why we have this rise of like the Trumpism and the QAnon and whatever. And I don't necessarily think that if you're a QAnon supporter, you're inherently racist. I
Mm.
think that that's a narrative that there might be a correlation there,
Right, right,
but
right,
I don't think they're one and the same. I know some
right,
people that do veer towards, I don't want to say they're full on QAnon people, but they veer towards that. And there's no racist overtones with them at all whatsoever.
right.
Um, actually quite the opposite in some of their cases. So, but I don't think that they're one and the same, but it does strike me interesting that you have this strong push towards representation, and while that's happening, also the conservative element is ramping up as well. And what concerns me though is that the left, who is the, traditionally been, and I don't really see things in left and right, but just for fucking shorthand,
Mhm,
people that veer towards more of the left are increasingly becoming fascist, which is interesting because
mm,
they want to dictate, you know, right speak, wrong speak. They want to
mhm.
dictate that. So now if you don't go along with exactly what they think baseline reality should be, you're part of the problem. We want to cancel you.
Right,
And the odd thing to me about it is that the, those are people that are supposed to be anti-fascist,
right,
yet they are distributing fascist ways. And then the people that are supposed to be pro-fascist are also a lot of the same people that are like, "Don't tread on me," and are all about independence.
yeah,
So now there's a lot of nuance there, but I just find this whole thing odd. And the thing that I feel like, whether this is an orchestration, it's intentional, or it's just random chaos, which I tend to think it's a mixture of both, but probably more so chaos, is that um, it's distracting from the real issue. I'm not saying that race and gender and sexuality, sexual preferences, all these things are not an issue. They absolutely are. But the fundamental, like you're saying, the why,
yeah,
if you peel it all back to me, those are like one or two steps away from the real actual root of it, which is classism.
right,
Like,
right,
that is the actual issue because you and I have far more in common with each other than Jeff Bezos.
right, right,
So it's just like that's the actual thing. It's institutional classism that is keeping, it's like neo-feudalism basically. Like it's keeping these classes, and the it is definitely more difficult when you start incorporating race and sexuality and gender and all these things into it.
right,
But I think that those aren't nearly as severe as the class issues that are keeping all of us repressed and down and perpetuating this system of infighting, which is perpetuating racism and all of these other things. So it's just like there's this one image online of like the Monopoly man. He's got like a donkey and an elephant on the other, and it's just like, I don't know. To me, it seems like the same thing. Like greed and corruption is like at the root of all of it.
yep.
So I just opened up a whole Pandora's box of things.
Yeah,
What
yeah, you touched
where
on a
where
couple things.
where do you wanna go?
I we'll start there and then we'll, I guess, work our way back, and I feel that, what I love about our conversation and just like me and you in general is that we can have a conversation, we can have different views, but still have clarity and respect, and a growth or a learning moment between each other, having this view.
For sure.
Example would be, I'm not an atheist. I've had atheist friends. I was born or raised as a Christian and became more spiritual, but that never stopped me from having, again, friends who had a different ideology or a different thought process. Maybe
Yeah,
there may be some certain boundaries or certain scenarios where we don't have to necessarily mix in at times, but that's how you know and you recognize more. Yeah, this is another human being. I'm a human being. We're not going to hold our views, as extreme on being able to connect with each
mhm,
other, but we're still going to respect our views as far as like maybe there may be some topics or some situations or whatever the nuances that we may not cross, as well as we would mix in other scenarios. So I think that
sure.
that's one thing to look at it, because everybody can't do that. Like I, I,
Mhm.
I really state that again. Everybody can't do that. So I love the fact when you do have the opportunity to do that, that's what creates the conversation for growth. Then when it
Mhm.
comes to the whole classism aspect of things, because yeah, I think that representation, it's big. Just like to your example, the I did see the GoDaddy commercial, but see, it didn't stick out to me. I thought it was the same way your was it your partner you said how she thought of it.
Yeah.
Uh, but it didn't really it was like, I'm seeing it again. Like, this has become normalized to me because I see the game that they're playing. Same way that the M&Ms have made their change too for more representation. So for people who don't
What
know,
I'm not familiar with the yeah, go on. I'm not familiar.
yeah, the quick summary of the whole scenario, for those who aren't familiar. So M&Ms are now changing all of their characters to represent more of our modern age, classifications. So, for example, the one of the M&Ms that was brown, if I'm not mistaken, had heels on. So now they're taking heels off of her and putting more flat shoes on there. So that's just one example. The other one of the other M&Ms, it was either the
Was the
orange
brown M&M supposed to be a
a
woman?
woman, the brown M&M was supposed to be a
Okay.
woman. But see, the fact that you asked that question and I said heels, see how, like,
Yeah.
it could we most people wouldn't even think that's a man, but we're in such
It's a
a
fucking piece of
society.
chocolate.
It's a chocolate,
Like
right? But they gave
yeah.
these pieces of chocolate representation of characters of so now it's just so funny. But that goes to show you how far they're taking this representation. We gotta update the chocolate characters and nobody's like, "Man, I'm gonna take this blue and I love this blue M because, like Sleepy is just as sleepy as I am." Or I'm gonna take, this green and like it turns into the Snow White story
Yeah.
with your M&Ms that you're eating. Like, man,
Yeah.
Dopey, I'm so dope. This M&M is named Dopey. I'm gonna eat this M&M and move the rest of the M&Ms out the box. I relate
Yeah.
to this M&M. This M&M is like me where they've been through poverty and they suffered. So that's why I'm eating this M&M. Like nobody fucking thinks about M&Ms that
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're doing it. So I do think that representation is like getting to a whole new level of marketing, or they're using marketing in the aspect of representation. But in my opinion, I have to admit that before we have the conversation of classism, or classification, because I do believe in it, I believe it's 100% important. In my opinion, I think one of the rudimentary issues that we have in America is accountability, because whether people like it or not. And I encourage those who don't know their history, who don't know American history, outside of the textbook and social media aspect of things, how our country was actually built. Now, most people don't want to
Yeah.
talk about this because it's a very sensitive subject and everybody's got their opinion about why this happened and how this happened. It doesn't negate the fact of how it was written and what actually happened. And the fact
Yeah.
of the matter is that these things happen, such as slavery, and slavery wasn't the America wasn't the only place that slavery existed, but America did profit the most out of it. They did,
For sure. Yeah.
they did create the biggest economy from it. And because of that, there are still pains, traumas, unanswered questions. There's a lot of black box or kept secret scenarios that America as a conglomerate hasn't dealt with yet. So although in our modern day society, yes, we call it racism and we see racism or stereotyping or other words to use that is an adjective to describe or describe something, um, but we don't necessarily understand the context of it's not necessarily just racism we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that America hasn't taken accountability for what's happened beyond the whole what it is now, and they haven't necessarily addressed this matter in a way that they have addressed other matters. An example would be how you mentioned Native Americans. And I'm very particular about that because I actually have Indian friends, and they're from India. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
like the fact
Yeah.
that we still like different, we still kind of like use it interchangeably, but yet there are people that from a whole different country really call this. That to me says one thing about how our American minds work. But they have been what do they call reparations? they have been given and it doesn't take back for what has done for them, but they have been given other opportunities or or benefits because of their heritage, because of their culture. The same thing that happened with Jews from, and I have a lot of friends that are Jewish. So the Holocaust is real. Don't matter what opinion you had about it. That
Yeah.
shit fucking really happened, and it was a shitty. It's one of the most disgusting events in our history as a world, as the globe. However, in America, and it's a joke. It's a like we I see black comedians joke about it. I see white comedians joke about it. I see comedians from the Middle East joke about it on how, the Jewish people or Jews have, when you think about money, who do you think about? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's a joke, but you don't think about that with the black community or the African American community. Yet there was a big time and event, just like these other cultures that I've mentioned or races that I mentioned that have had been impacted in a huge way, and they got some type of quote unquote payback. Like I don't, and that's why I'm saying quote unquote because you can call it whatever you want to call it, but it hasn't yet happened in the African American community. And that's why I'm saying it has nothing to do with racism from a day to day. It's accountability. Like when is the government, one of the people at the top going to be like, yo, we fucked up. Um, there are still some fuck ups happening, in their scenario. Okay, we need to do something to fix this. Like we've tried to fix other issues.
Yeah. There was an example that was brought up in a piece, and I've heard it on a couple podcasts where there was a school. I want to say like outside of DC or something. I don't know. I'll see if I can track it down and put it in the show notes if I can. But there was this school system where they were basically saying that they were racist because there were like certain kids that they weren't allowing or whatever, and it had to do with jurisdictions, and they were just a an overwhelming amount of people that lived on one side that were one race, and then outside of the jurisdiction there was another.
Right.
And they were saying that that is like this school is racist. And I'm like, okay, gerrymandering and the boundaries and all that stuff, that may or may not have come from a racist standpoint. It might have been more political. I mean, that and it is inherently racist in of itself, but it might have been more
Right.
political in nature.
Right.
Like it was not like, huh, how can we, disenfranchise young black people? It was more just like, how can we get more votes that are going to be in our favor? Is
Right.
probably what it comes down to. But it is it is racist to not consider how that the downstream
Right.
effects of that.
Right.
So I get that. I'm not disagreeing with that. But there were all these parents that were like being all crazy social justice warrior, being like, this school and its administration are racist. The teachers there are racist and all this other stuff. And it's like, that's a fucking systematic problem. That is not the individuals at this school. They don't sit there and make up the boundaries of what they don't make that up. Now, if you want to take it to the higher level, the state or whoever the hell that jurisdiction is, sure, that's an argument to make. But the fact that they were mad at the teachers and the principals and stuff, I'm like, that is insane. That is not them. That is not their fault. They are not sitting there dictating like what kids get in and what kids go get out based on if you are not in this area, the way that it's set up, you can't go to the fucking school.
Right.
I don't. That's just one example, but like I think that it's like,
Do you mind if I give you another example similar?
yeah, yeah, go for it.
We'll see if they correlate. So to the example you just gave, there's been a couple of, and I love the show Atlanta, by the way.
Yeah, I watched like 2 episodes and I
Oh
fucking
my
love it.
god,
I need to keep watching it.
it's a great. It touches on so many different angles, and it's a great show. For those who don't know, it's Childish Gambino slash Donald Glover. He created the show. He wrote the show, and it depicts in Atlanta, and it just goes over all these different issues and situations. But there was this one episode, and it was one of the greatest episodes because like I relate to it. It happened to me where they were trying to get into a movie theater. This Donald Glover's character and his girlfriend were trying to get into a movie theater, and they walk up to the cash register, and then he gives the lady like $100 bill, and she's like, "We don't take $100 bills." And he's like, "Okay." He gives her a credit card. "Well, we don't take that either." And then he gives her something else. Well, we don't take that. And then he walks away. Like he's like, huh? It's done in a more satire, funny way. And then this white guy comes up. He gives her exactly the $100 bill that the guy before who's black gave, and she
Yeah.
takes it. And then he looks at the white guy, his wife, and then the cashier. And then the white guy looks at him and just like pulls up his shirt, and there's a gun on it. And then it's like this funny ass moment between the, nobody says anything. And he just walks away like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah.
so that's one scenario, or another scenario where, for instance, when I was in Bowling Green and there was a club called the
Jesus.
Clazel. And this
Yeah.
club was like it was a movie theater turned club by an owner there, and I'll never forget one time, and I was probably super drunk, but uh, so one time where I would try to get in, and the owner did this often where if you didn't have the right shoes, the right jacket, the right whatever, you're not getting in the club. You're not getting in this place.
Yeah.
So in one hand, you could be like, no, this isn't racist. But on another hand, they knew what they were doing by saying, if you wear this, and wear this, you're not getting in, knowing that most people of this certain color or this certain culture is going to be wearing or doing that.
Yeah.
So it reminds me something similar of, and it's just to me, it's that scenario kind of like, no, you don't have to be the person shooting the gun that, but if you're the person who gave the gun to the person shooting the gun or the person who looked away when you knew you could have stopped that gun from being fired, should you not be held to some accountability on your choices on your end? And I forgot which president said it, but it was, and I'm paraphrasing here, the only way for good men to, I mean, for evil to win is for good men to do nothing. Was one of my
Mm.
favorites. I remember playing Call of Duty and I would see that little quote all the time. But yeah, meaning like that there's always going to be fucked up situations. Evil is always going to be there, or bad things are always going to happen, or it's just always going to be that negativity. But the only way that that really succeeds is when those small instances of good stop playing a part, when they can play a part.
Yeah. What So that's a weird line, in a way. It's like when you say that, it's like, yeah, it seems obvious to me, but then I think that that's a line that is difficult to walk for a lot of people. I would imagine like there's just kind of an intuitive gut reaction, but a lot of people don't seem to have that. So like what I mean by that is, all the shit happening with Rogan recently, which I think is totally unwarranted. I can understand. I have a lot of conflicting views on Rogan. I've talked about it in the past. I don't want to get too into it, but like I think Rogan means well.
Mhm.
I don't think there's any part of him that does not mean well. And I think he did get a little lazy in how he was dealing with certain topics when it comes to the pandemic, the vaccines, all this stuff. Um, but he owned up to it. He said, "You know what? I agree with you. This is valid criticism. I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better.
Mhm.
This is not like there's no intention behind this. I'm just a dude who had a podcast. I've been shooting the shit. One thing led to another. I have this large platform. I didn't ask
Right.
for this.
Right.
It just kind of happened. I now realize that there was a responsibility there, but there's no like, hey, you have arrived like moment, like it
Right.
just kind of happens. Um, so that did a lot for me. I still have been listening to his show, and I still love the dude, but I have been a little disappointed in the last like couple years, like how he's been. But I didn't think ill intent. I never thought ill intent.
Mm.
But a lot of people were attributing ill intent. And where I'm getting at with bringing up Rogan is that he had that, and then it went from that to, oh, he said the N word a bunch of times,
Mhm.
and pretty much every single time was in context, and he was quoting,
Right. Right.
and it was never done with malicious intent. It's like the dude fucking toured with Chappelle. I mean, like it's a billion instances
Right. Right.
in which he's given a platform to people of a lot of different minorities,
Right.
and there's just if you listen to him at all for any period of time, there's nothing that would indicate that he is a racist at all.
Right. Right. I agree
So
with
it's
that.
just like Joe's just a dude who just likes people, like so that was a problem for me. Now, like he has said that, hey, if I do it again, I wouldn't have said that because I realized blah blah blah. But it's like still they were trying to make something out of it that was not there at all. And to me, it definitely seemed like a
Mhm.
hit piece. I don't know how much of that is, a master plan or how much of it is just sensationalist journalism, knowing they're going to get a bunch of clicks and a bunch of views. But the fact
A
is like
mix.
that is disgusting to me more so than Joe saying a bunch of words that in context are not hateful or hurtful at all. And why I bring this up is because there was actually several people that did this video, but there was one that I saw got posted on Reddit, and he was in like LA or something, and he just interviewed a bunch of people by the beach. And every single white person, aside from like one dude who was pretty rational, he was like the voice of reason of all the
Mhm.
white people. Every single one of them was like, "Do you think he should be taken? Do you think he should be taken off Spotify?" "Yeah, I absolutely think he should be taken off Spotify." And like, then
Yeah,
there was
yeah.
this one couple that was probably in their 50s. They're like, "He is terrible. He's saying things he shouldn't have a platform. They should take him down."
Right,
And all this other stuff.
right.
And then they cue to a bunch of black people, and they're just like, "Dude, I don't care." Like, he either said like, "Hey, as long as you're not saying it to me, I don't care," or, "Hey, as long as it's, like, not hateful, I don't really care."
Mhm.
And then there was these 2 older black women that they interviewed, and they're just like, if he was saying it in context, and it was in quotes,
Right,
and he was not using it in a hateful way, he should absolutely be able to say it. If he's throwing it around needlessly, that's one thing. But
right,
if you're telling me it was in quotes, and he was quoting other people
right.
to make a point, it's a fucking word. And, like, this is something that, like, I've seen the general sentiment from the black community, just what I see is that they're
Feel
just like,
similar, is what you're
yeah,
saying.
it's just like, we don't fucking care. Like, this is a non-issue. But it's all the white people that are, like, upset for the black people. And I'm like, that seems kinda racist to me. Like
That's the
that
funny
see
part about it.
it's weird. I don't know, like, what
At least they didn't he wasn't a Liam Nielsen situation. Like that could have happened. For those who don't know who Liam Nielsen
have
is,
not
think
shown.
about the movie Taken.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of money, but I do have special skills.
Yeah.
That guy right there, right?
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
he got in trouble a few years ago because he got caught saying some words in an interview. He got caught. Basically they went back in his old archive catalog and he got caught saying some words. But he didn't do it like Joe Rogan did in the context of quoting people. He was actually saying these words. Same thing with Mel Gibson, right? So I used to be a big fan of Mel. This sucks. It sucks being black when you're a big fan of white, really great white person. Like it does, because like it
Yeah.
comes a conflict of interest. Like, do I still keep supporting his movies or watching them? I haven't watched a
Yeah.
Mel Gibson movie the same since I found out that like he was a racist by the things that he said, in my opinion. But between like his situation, Liam Nielsen's situation, Joe Rogan situation, or even, and this is the funny part too, the Papa John's was one of the biggest. Like, if people are into marketing and they are really into inclusive and exclusivity and navigating the whole world, and you understand the Papa John story, I feel like you'll learn a big fucking lesson because Papa John's in the black community, that was the fucking pizza. Like that's what black
Mhm.
people ate was Papa John's. Like that pizza crust was good, shit was, tasty. I don't know if you eat pizza, but that was it for black people. And then the whole situation where black people thought he was being racist because the whole all that came out. And it was literally no evidence. It was more pointing the fingers, very little evidence. And then recently, within the last year or two, and this happened for at least like anywhere from 5 to 10 years, people were boycotting Papa John to where even Shaq stopped doing Papa John commercials, and he was a big representation of Papa John. Recently, it came out a couple years ago. The actual conversation, like the recording of the conversation, came out years later, and he even said, the owner said, I think it was because it was the marketing company that actually put out it was his own marketing company that put this shit out that he was racist. That was the crazy part
'Cause
about
they
it.
were upset with him or something? They had a dispute?
It was the marketing company that was basically hired on to help, Papa John's marketing or whatever, but they were also a marketing company that was hired by the board members, the other people that were, on the board that didn't have the same interests as, I forgot what his actual name is. I don't want to say Papa John, but the owner. So it was a conflict of interest between the two, even though technically he owned this marketing company because he's the owner of the company. However, they
That
wanted to kind of kick him out in a way, like push him out. So they let go a clip of him saying the N word, nigga, I'm black, whatever the fuck it, and
yeah,
saying it that way, and so black people boycotted pizza for years.
that actually may be illegal. Like if they have in their contract clause that there is established conflict of interest, I mean, regardless of all the other ways that might be illegal, I mean, just from a contractual standpoint, that might just be straight up illegal. So,
That's why he's fighting it.
ugh,
But
yeah, it's
it's a
ridiculous.
story of basically what happens when you get taken out of context, how it can be used against you in Joe Rogan's situation, and the people that are actually like being, quote unquote, should be affected, them not really caring as much as the people that are doing the pandering and the talking and all the XYZ, and then them kind of like projecting these ideas and the people that didn't really care, and it becoming that loop of, oh, now we want to talk about this situation and then get into the whole cancel culture aspect of things. Where if you actually listen to Joe Rogan or listen to his previous, uh, you know, uh, um, I'll say catalog, because he just hasn't had a podcast. He's been on. People don't know like his first TV show. What was that?
Well, he was on news radio for a while, but the thing that blew him up was the Fear Factor.
Fear Factor. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
this first TV show, like that's when you started really, and like you said, he toured with a lot of African American. Dave Chappelle, and I'm talking like you can say whatever you want to say about him and his team. They'll call you the fuck out. Like if they're
yeah,
not gonna tour with you and do all this shit with you and not call you the fuck out if you are really this way.
yeah. No, I mean, I'm in Dayton, Ohio. Uh,
Right.
well,
That's
like
very close
Dave
to his
lives
home. So
here.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've been to his juke joint events and shit
Nice.
probably like 4 times. When after the shooting here, he did the Dayton Shine event, like whatever. If you've been in Dayton for any reasonable amount of time, everyone's got a Dave Chappelle story. Everyone's bumped into him. I can't tell you how many times I've been in Yellow Springs where he lives. I'm just walking down the street and you see him and you kind of lock eyes with him. You give him a little nod and he just kind of gives you a nod. You just keep going.
Nice.
Because if you're from here, you leave fucking Dave alone. It's kind of unspoken thing. Like you just that's the thing. Like you just kind of leave him the fuck alone. You know, he's like a rare Pokemon. You see the Pokemon, you
That
realize you don't
right.
have a Master Ball. You don't have a
You
Master
don't have
Ball.
a
You're never
basketball.
gonna capture him. So just acknowledge him. Be like, that's a cool Pokemon, and then you keep going. You know,
Right,
like
right, right.
it's just maybe not the best analogy, but the point is
I
just
loved it.
like you just leave him the fuck alone. You know, so um, I I would be bothered if I was a fucking one of the biggest celebrities in the world and I have my hometown where I feel safe and then I become like this attraction that people like I don't know. So that's one I mean that's why he lives there is because
Right,
people he grew up with a lot of those people.
right,
He's just Dave, you know?
right, right,
So anyway, uh yeah, when people misconstrue Dave, I mean like everyone's got a Dave story. I've heard some not fantastic things about him, but
right,
also it's just like he's a complicated dude
right.
who has a life that the vast majority of people can't even begin to understand.
Man, couldn't
And
even peel back the layers.
yeah, yeah, it's just like oh man. I mean, I'm worried about it. Me being a fucking content creator myself and me in particular, my whole thing I guess is being raw and just being there is like a I think we might have talked about last time, I don't remember, but there's very little buffer between who I am right now and who I am as a person.
Right, right. You
Um
did say that.
yeah, like it's like less than a percent.
Mhm.
Like the conversation you and I are having is the exact same conversation we'd have if we were sitting over each other, no mics, and we're just having beers.
Right,
Um, I just don't think about it. Every once in a while, I will kind of like that comment I talked about earlier. Like I will be like, okay, probably just didn't say that, but that's just because like and this is what concerns me. I hate the fact that we live in a world where I have to think about that. I have to think about what if 10 years from now somebody takes a clip that I say completely out of context
yeah.
and then just puts a headline. It could be completely wrong, but by that point they've already done the collateral damage. They've already put it in the zeitgeist. Like
Right,
I feel bad for Richard Gere. Like that fucking whole like he put a gerbil up his ass. Richard Gere probably didn't do that. He
Oh, I
probably didn't
didn't
do
hear
anything like
about
that.
that with Richard Gere.
Y- South Park, the whole Lemmy Winks.
Okay,
You ever
okay.
watch that
I did
episode?
watch South Park, but I remember that episode, but that's
The
interesting.
episode of there's an episode Lemmy Winks where it's like this like gerbil or hamster and like he goes on this like Lord of the Rings like adventure and
Oh, yeah, 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 that's
he has to
old.
go through Mr. Slave's ass and stuff and the whole thing was based on this rumor in like either the late 90s or early 2000s that Richard Gere put a gerbil up his ass or like something like that and because it was like moving around and then he had to go to the hospital and all this other stuff because of scratching and all this crap. um Obviously, like, it's an absurd story that I
Right,
cannot imagine is even remotely real, but because it's Richard Gere, which is, like, such an odd choice,
right,
you know,
right.
that, like, people are like, "It's so odd that maybe it's true."
We're talking about Pretty
Uh,
Women with Richard Gere, right?
yeah, yeah,
With
yeah, at
Julia
Richard Gere.
Roberts with Richard Gere.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just like, me, I know him for the Mothman prophecies, but,
Okay, okay.
I'm
That was
a
a good
Mothman
that
nerd.
was good.
Dude, that was legitimately so I love Mothman. I mean, Mothman's like, you know, you could drive to Point Pleasant from where you're at in like probably 2.5 hours, 3 hours, something like that.
Uh-huh.
It's the same. So like I went there recently with my fiance because uh just the concept of the Mothman is interesting. It's obviously it was a crane. It was a certain type of crane that it was unusually warm during that year. So it might have like it's a Canadian crane. It might have went off course on its way south. It has giant, huge red things around its eyes.
Right, right.
It was totally it has like a 6-foot wingspan. It was a fucking crane. But I love the lore that there's like this Mothman. It's this creature. But the movie, we watched it, and I'm like, we gotta watch this before we go down there. It's fucking good. It's a legitimately good movie. I was like, fuck, man, I forgot. It was one of those movies I haven't seen in like a decade. I'm like, I hope it lives. I hope it's not bad. You know,
That's one of
you
those
remember it
classics.
being good,
Right,
but it
right.
actually is good. Anyway, so Richard Gere, this poor fucking dude, like everyone's like, he put a gerbil up his ass, but it was complete. It has to be complete horseshit. But it got circulated around. And I think about that. I think about the fact that like Joe Rogan there's no evidence whatsoever that Joe Rogan is a racist. Like his stepdaughter is like black. Like it makes no fucking sense at all. There's no evidence whatsoever. But yet a portion of the country now thinks that he's a racist.
Yeah, they
Even The Rock, who I thought people gave unnecessary slight to, he just said when Rogan came out with the whole statement being like, "Hey, you know, I realize that, you know, with the COVID situation, maybe I overdid it. Well, I'm gonna do better."
right,
And
right.
pretty much universally, everyone was like, "Well done. Like
We
you did it.
forgive
Like
you.
yeah, you owned up to it. You couldn't have really said anything better."
Yeah,
Like in that 10 minutes, he said even Sam Harris, who's a friend of his, but has been very publicly disappointed in how Droga even he said, "Well done, brother." Like, even he was like,
yeah,
you crushed it. As long as you keep that promise, well done,"
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Um, and The Rock was like, "Hey, man, this is fucking great. Totally would love to be on the podcast." Then someone brought up the whole, you know, the N-word thing, and he's just like, um, "Well, yeah, I think, you know, thank you for bringing this up, that this is stuff that I'm not aware of." He didn't say anything one way or another. Then they're like, The Rock, like, go turns on friend Joe Rogan and all this other stuff, and it's like he didn't say that.
It's headlines,
He didn't
man.
say that at all.
Headlines.
Like, yeah, so it's like now on our Joe Rogan, there's all these people that are like, fuck The Rock, and it's like you realize you're doing the exact same thing against The Rock that you are upset
Right,
with people doing with Rogan.
right.
It's like the fucking cognitive distance is insane. And so I'm sitting here like, how can we ever get out of this? And what I'm concerned about is you got
Mm,
the cancel culture, the pandering of the race and all the other stuff. So that we were talking about earlier, but then there's just the fact that like even comedians now who their whole job is to say shit that pushes the boundaries of
yeah,
acceptable speech. That is their job.
yeah,
Literally, the court jesters were there to say all the shit that the audience was saying, or
yeah,
the people in the court were thinking, because that kept equilibrium.
mm,
I can shit on the king and say what everyone's actually thinking. I won't be punished, but at least it's being said,
yeah,
and that kept dissent down. So the fucking comedians, his whole point has been to point out the hypocrisy and the insanity and absurdity of our culture. They're being canceled for it. It's like, I am worried as a person who not only is creating content, but also is being as raw as I am, nobody's perfect. You know,
Yeah.
I've tried to live my life as honorable as possible, but I've definitely, like, I don't have a spotless record. Nothing bad, nothing terrible, but,
Right.
like, it unless you're Mister Rogers, anything can be taken as benign as it is and made to look terrible. Even Mister Rogers, people were like, "He might be a pedophile. He's a little too what?" It's just
Right.
like, "Really?"
Right.
No
Right.
evidence at all whatsoever. So it's just like, dude, I don't know. I
We
what
do it often.
it's
I definitely will say that. And to your credit, I'm glad you've pushed through even that internal conflict or these outside sources that possibly can be stopping you from even wanting to push on with your podcast. I think that one, you have a platform and you have a channel that you're able to release your thoughts in a way that's a lot of people are afraid to do. And with that, as you mentioned, it's going to come backlash and there's going to be people that are 100% against you as much as people are 100% for you. But as Russell Brunson alluded to in his series, his expert secret series and ClickFunnels series, that people, the best people that are out there that become the ones that we love, not they're not the best human beings, but they're the best at what they do. They're very polarizing. They're very North Pole, South Pole thought process. And ironically, those are the people that we all aspire to be or model from, whatever. But the people who get in trouble the most because they have the most pressure on them based off of the fact that they're gung ho about their views, no matter what. And now we're in a society where, yes, we want those people still, but it definitely hits the headline. It's definitely a topic of discussion. It creates headlines. It makes people going back to that feeling important because they got something to talk about now. Oh, I've heard Joe Smo does this, or Sam Jam, or Janet Smith did that, and I can talk about it. And now I actually have something to talk about in the comments section on the social media other than my life. Because most people don't really want it going back to talking about the truth, like a guy in the bar.
yeah.
Most people don't want to talk of their truth. It's hard. Like, I don't want to be the next person that you can go back and you can catalog me and take myself out of context, but we love to talk about others. So I do think that it's one of those gift and curse scenarios because on the outside looking in, I would never want you to stop your show because you're so afraid to go, like move forward, and push through it. And I know you're not going to do that, but I'm glad that you are aware enough to know that, yeah, the trolls are out there. You're going to be trolled. They're going to hit
Yeah.
hard when they want to hit. But since you know your audience, now we're kind of, connecting the dots back into the whole marketing and branding scenario because you know your target audience. You've done your homework, you've done the work, and you are consistent in your workings, even if those people come after you or whatever they say they're going to do. The people that support you, care about you, that fuck with you, that rock with you, they're going to be that supportive measure and the driving force of why you push through that period. I don't see it any other way. Otherwise, us as human beings, when the world hates us, it's just a human trait. Normally, we kind of hate ourselves. Like, we are very much affected when we feel like this majority of people feels this certain way towards us. It takes a very special person to kind of push past when they feel the majority. I'm not talking about half your friends. No, when you feel like the whole world knows you're a murderer because it's been on TV and they think you're a piece of shit. That's a different feeling than half of your family thinking you're the greatest guy in the world and the other half thinking you're a piece of shit. Because that ain't the whole world knowing this evidence.
Yeah. You can go to another town and you're
You
starting
can go
fresh.
another time to start fresh.
I mean, it was like what I think we talked about before. It's like in the first conversation, I'm pretty sure you brought up the fact that like when after Chappelle show, like he had to go to fucking Africa. He's just
Right,
like, I don't
right,
stand out here. Nobody knows who the fuck I am. This is pretty much the only place I can go and just be a person. No one's like, oh, it's Dave Chappelle. You know, it's
right,
like
right.
like you can just he could just be him and not have that spotlight of celebrity. And it's I think about that. I've been studying all of this so much, like, how all these different influencers, particularly in like the podcast space, um, just because I think the podcast space, not only because it's most relevant to me, but it's the most exaggerative because the podcasts have went from like nothing to being this cultural
Man.
phenomenon. And so you have so many personalities that have just exploded. And some of these people have struggled for that transition. I think Rogan has handled it exceptionally well considering how insane he was. Just a dude getting high with his friends in his basement, and now he has the largest singular media platform in the world.
Right.
That's insane.
Right.
Like, as far as, like, just one-on-one, like, individual fucking influence, it's nuts. But that makes him a target, and that makes him a target for calculated reasons, that makes him a target for just bad incentive, like clicks and whatever, and people's own. Now it's like people have a actual, if they align against Rogan and they point Rogan as this thing, like that helps their goals. Like someone
Right.
tried to do a big takedown of Rogan, and their whole their only claim to fame is that they write hit pieces about people.
Right.
So it's just like they literally made a career out of just talking shit about people and monetizing it.
That's
And I'm just like,
yeah.
that it does worry me, but also like I know inevitably if I get even a modest audience, I'm going to have to deal with that to some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, there's people in your own hometown that talk shit about you completely unnecessarily, and you just had one bad interaction with them because maybe you were tired one day.
Yeah.
And, like, you just came off weird, and now that they go around saying that you're an asshole, and then it just infiltrates. But Tim Ferriss did this post where he's talking about, like, why you don't wanna be famous, and he's like, "You have to imagine that 1% of your audience is kind of mentally unwell."
Mm.
So, if you have an audience of 10,000 people, if you have an audience of 1,000 people, that's 10 people
Right.
that are not really mentally well, that are fans of yours,
Yep.
that might post a bunch of crazy shit.
Do
You
extreme
have What
stuff.
happens if you have 100,000 followers? What happens if you have 1,000,000? What happens if you have 10,000,000 people listening to every episode of your podcast?
Right. Right.
Like, then after a while, you don't even have to factor in just people that are mentally, not super well. I say this as someone who's has ADHD, bipolar, and generalized anxiety disorder. So, you know,
Mm.
uh I'm thankful that I can deal with it, but it is still a struggle with me, and I've struggled a lot where I can totally see how it can lead you down a really, really, really bad path. And so if you take that, amplify it, gamify it, where they can go on message boards and do whatever, it's like it's just complicated, man.
Right. 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 I mean, that's huge for you to be able to deal with that. And that's something that I don't think people talk about in the community as much. And I mean, like, just the general community, American community, as far as ADHD or bipolarism, as well as like mental health or illness. And I think the people who do talk about it, we do talk about it in the context of a joke or the context of the extreme because of our ignorance. Like, that person
Yeah,
is just angry all the time, so they're angry randomly, so they must be bipolar. Or that child can't sit down or still, so they must be, must have ADHD, where it could technically be just because 'cause they're just not being stimulated enough.
yeah,
So there's I think that getting the proper diagnosis, getting the proper first becoming aware, getting the proper diagnosis, as well as sometimes getting second opinions, and learning yourself and not just relying on just medical help or medical experts, but actually taking the reins yourself with your own body, with your own mind. Not necessarily saying like practice on yourself medically, but learning more about it. I think that that's something that we don't talk about enough. And through my experience, like hearing you say that and knowing that I have a best friend who let me know that he was bipolar recently, but the context of our relationship, as long as I've known him, I've always just considered it his mood swings. And so I just let those
yeah,
things go. And then more recently, my um I guess I'll call her my ex, but the mother of my child or upcoming child. Um, in my opinion, like, I feel like there's some aspects, within her family that could have some of those, symptoms, for
Yeah.
bipolarism. But like, how do you? And she's probably gonna hear this and cuss me out afterward. But I love her, so I love you either way. But either I'm saying this to say that like I would the immature me would joke about it, and I would be like, oh well, when you're angry at me, whatever, there goes that bipolar side of you, or side that I would call your some family member in a joking manner. But at the end of the day, that it can hurt people that really have that condition, that have these conditions, for those that joke about it that don't understand. However, there are people out there that you may be joking about and they don't really know that that's what they have and that's what it really is. And they're afraid to admit that or to say it or get help because it has a negative connotation, like the way that they're going to be
Yeah.
looked because of it.
Dude, I just found out that I'm bipolar in the last year. I can't tell you how both relieved I am, but also how sad I guess I am for myself. Like, I don't mean that in a pity party way. I just mean as a human being, like taking a step back and being like, Jesus, dude, you've gone 30 years of your life struggling and not realizing why, in dealing with these manic ups and downs that has almost killed you, literally, and has you have really struggled significantly, and also at times have made the people around you struggle significantly.
Mhm.
And there was a reason why, and you just thought that you weren't handling things better, and you could have and should have done better, but this entire time you literally have had a mental impairment and you didn't even know. I didn't find out that I had ADHD until I was like 23.
Mm,
So my entire life, particularly going through school, I'm like, oh my god, like all this makes sense.
right.
So it's just like, now it's like I'm on a mood stabilizer. It's a pretty subtle one, but still, it doesn't affect me at all
Right.
cognitively or emotionally aside from the stability.
Right. Right.
I don't have the highs and I don't have the lows. And I realize how much those highs and lows, the crazy highs and lows,
Right.
like
Right. Right.
how much that actually impacted my day to day life and everything. Just, I'm so much more at peace and I still struggle
Mm,
significantly, but not nearly as much as I did. And, like, that's something where it's just like, I don't think I want kids. I've never really had the desire to be a father.
mhm.
And the one thing I have learned as I've gotten older is that you never know how you're gonna feel changed about something. So I don't wanna say that I'm not going to. When I was in my
I'm
early
glad you
20s.
said that part. That was
Yeah.
wisdom right there. That was truth and wisdom combined together.
Ha earned wisdom from a lot of pain and a lot of bad decisions, perhaps. But,
That's how it goes.
um, yeah, that's how it comes, man. Gotta get through the pain to get the benefits, but to get the gains, but at the same time, a very real reason why I hesitate, even if I actually wanted to be a father, is, like, I got some really good genes, don't get me wrong, but I also got some really
I
bad ones.
love that confidence.
Okay?
Like, I got them G's like a
I
woman.
got some good genes, but I also got some really bad ones, and, like, everyone in my family on both sides has a lot of mental illness,
Right,
and it goes back generations, and,
right,
like,
right.
I know what it's like to struggle, and my partner's family also has a lot of mental illness, and so,
Mhm.
like, I look at both of us and our genetic history, and I'm like, I don't know if I wanna, like, put this on somebody because that's a struggle, but, at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Uh,
That's
it's
pretty
just
deep.
something.
The reason why I'm saying that that's deep and you saying that because it goes back to where you were. To me, it's similar how you were saying like, man, I hate that I can't say. I have to think about saying the C word, even though you said it a couple times, I think, but the fact
Yeah,
that you have to think about but you are, like, you're aware of these, the possibilities, and so it's like it's stopping you from moving forward and just seeing where you would go, like, maybe you saying the C word would get you demonetized in this platform, but it could get you celebrated and uplifted on another channel or on another
yeah,
platform
yeah,
because
yeah.
you're just being raw and being candid. So I feel like one to be super aware about yourself. I don't know if I want to do this to have a child, but at the same time, for you to actually like the internal conflict is not. It goes back to those whys. Well, why don't I want to? Because it is, and you don't want to basically put these negative possibilities because we don't know they're actually going to happen. What's going to happen? Or probabilities. Well, the probability is because you're saying, and I think the same thing. Well, my family member had it, or my father or mother had this. So, and something things are hereditary, they can be genetically passed down. So there is probability in that scenario. But the possibility, that's when we get into that projecting aspect of things where we're like, well, we don't really know. And so what we don't know is scaring us, is going back to the whole fear. So we
Yeah.
don't want to make that decision to do this. But at the end of the day, there is a possibility that, we can try this action, we can take this risk, we can have this child, and everything goes right or smooth for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, that's the weird thing is like, I don't mind doing that for myself, but then you go into like, you're making that decision for another living thing. And that's a weird thing that I've softened on a lot. I don't think it would hold me back from having a kid, but it's one of those things where if you have enough of those things that overlap, then it might just make the decision pretty, pretty clear. I don't know. We'll see. But
I'll say
as
this.
for yourself, huh?
I was gonna say, if you to see right now, you're at the point where it's still a choice for you. I think that this is
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that I had to learn, and we don't have to talk about it too much, but I think that audience members that have kids, or the men that want to have kids, are like, I think that they'll be able to relate to the fact that when you're not with the woman you're having a child, first of all, it ain't your choice whether you have a child or child. So, right, like once it's in the woman's
yeah,
belly, and I was taught this by someone. I heard it. He was like, "Man, most babies are born out of a good time," and that shit resonated with me. Like when I thought of most kids are born out of a fucking great. They're not born planned. It's a great time. I know
yeah,
I went to the concert. I went to this show. Went to the bar. I had my
yeah,
friend,
yeah,
right? And then the kid happens, and then we go from there. We're not, most people aren't planning
yeah,
having children. So when you think of it that way, and then the woman is pregnant from a man's point of view, all you can do is create influence. You can't create decisions. It's all up to a
yeah,
woman, for to have that child or not. So then when that decision is taken away from you as a man, it ain't no more in your mind, man, I get the decision to, do I want to pass on these good genes or my bad genes or whatever? No, whether you like it or not, now it's about what are you going to do about this decision that's going to be made with or
yeah,
without you. Like, do I take care of this human? Do I do these things knowing that I didn't want to have this child, but it's not my decision. So I'm saying that to say, because that's the scenario that I'm in, and it's a scenario before I got in it, I heard from other people, except until you're in it, you really don't understand it. Now I understand it a lot more, and I've embraced it because I didn't think I was going to be having a kid when I was told I was having a kid, and she didn't think she was going to be having a kid because she didn't find out till a couple months later. So imagine being
uh,
told 2 months into the pregnancy that you're having a child, and to have to really cope with that and adjust to that and then make decisions based on that. You no longer get the decision of whether or not you're ready to have kids. Like that's not in, or will
yeah,
you have kids or not? So I just think that that's something that I think a lot of people may not talk about, especially men, because we don't often externalize our emotions in that way. But it's something that's
yeah,
a real life thing that people go through, that men and women go through, on how we're going to adjust to this situation that technically happened, most likely happened out of a good time. It wasn't even planned.
now I should use a condom, but it just feels so good.
Even
I
when you
just,
use a condom, shit, my shit's so
yeah.
good, girl. Condoms flip, like some men are so egotistical, they'll use all types of.
I just, it's just like fuck. I'll often use the term like when it's just like one of those like fucking YOLO moments. Like, all right, condoms off. Like it's just like just
Right.
gonna YOLO into something. But anyway, I, I guess like the last kind of thread to put all this together is like how have you, because I feel like this is interesting because it's kind of like the whole question of like, okay, 3 years from now, what does success look like to you? It gets you thinking about it in a different way
Mhm.
because right now you're like, well, I need my SEO done. I need my marketing, but really it's just like, okay, the why, why, why.
Yeah.
I think the equivalent in this case is like you can sit here and wrestle with the shit you as an individual, but it's like now that you're a father, you're going to be a father. I mean, you
Right,
already are
right,
a father,
right.
but you're what how does that influence things? Because like my buddy Sam McNerney, I've had on the podcast several times, like he at one point he's just like, if you really want to get over your existential dread, just have a kid because immediately all this shit doesn't matter. And now you have something to take care of at all costs.
Right,
And
right.
why you live doesn't matter anymore because it's self-evident. You're staring at it right in the eye. It's going you're putting it to bed every night or whatever, like
Right.
you have a kid out there that regardless, it's like your responsibility. The why doesn't matter anymore. That is the why. You
Mm,
might have other whys, sure, but that
right,
is the why.
right,
That is the singular why that matters.
right.
But so now it's like you as a father, it's like how are you feeling about like how you interface with the world? How are you feeling about like all this crap that this kid's going to grow up into? Cuz like I I feel the way I described it a couple times. I'm about to release an episode with Felix. I really think you're gonna enjoy that one. It's gonna come out in the next week or so, like when we're recording this. But
Nice.
literally the whole point is like pessimistic optimism.
Mm.
And it's just like I feel like I'm pessimistically optimistic. Like I think the things are probably gonna work out with us in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if like what your time horizon is. But I think the way of getting there is going to be fairly difficult. And I think there's amazing things to look forward in the future. But then I think about like having a kid and having it grow up and all of this because I feel like we were the last generation to know what the before times were, before the
I know what
internet
you're
and all this
saying.
other crap. Like we're the last generation that is going to we literally existed on that transitionary period, but now, Gen Z and younger they don't have that. They grew up, they're molded by it. It's like they grew up in it. That's all they know, And so it's just this kind of craziness. I don't know. How are you optimistic with about the future, thinking through the lens of now being a father?
I would say about 4 or 5 months ago, getting the news, I was not. Now that I've coped with it a lot more, I have accepted it a lot more. Me and, my child's mother are on the same page for the most part, during the pregnancy. That was real big for me. I've heard too many stories of men that weren't able to be a part of the pregnancy for whatever reason. And for me, like that was a big thing going into the situation because I was like, well, they say if you start strong, you end strong. And I know that's just like a general term, but I wanted to take that literal in the situation. Whereas like I wanted to start strong and be supportive and cooperative and let her know that despite our relationship or situation, that I'm still going to be here. I'm trusting you to be here and for both of us to be going through this process with aspirations, individual businesses, and still going through, I mean, on some real shit, our own traumatic past experiences. Like we're both in therapy, with separate therapists right now. So for each of us to be going through our own um, traumas and dealing with our own healings while having a kid for the first time, and we're both in our 30s. And for the most part, neither one of us has it all the way together. We have it in different ways, but we don't have it like all the way together and everything. That part is the fear factor, no Joe Rogan, the aspect of things.
Yeah.
That part is what makes us both afraid and makes us like, okay, how are we gonna do this? But at the same time, like I think it's like the best of our worlds, the best of what she's able to do, the best of what I'm able to do is going to surpass all the fuckeries or the flaws that we have individually and be able to help our child come into a crazy world or a different world than how we came into it. And I think that's the part that excites me more because I've always wanted to create a business for legacy purposes. Like everybody has their reasons and their whys. But one of my whys was because I wanted something to pass on to the generation that came after me, more specifically, like my seed, my offspring. But I still want to pass off my um, uh, um, business and opportunities to other people's kids too, because I think that's very important. It takes a village to raise a child, and I've been helping other people raise or correct their kids, as long as I knew. So it comes down to the shit is fucking crazy. I am scared out of my mind in one realm of what's gonna happen, how it's gonna happen, how her parents and my parents are gonna help or not help or support or be crazy over the situation. And then on the other hand, I am glad that I feel like I can trust her to do the best thing and the best interest of the child beyond her own feelings. And yes, they're going to get in the way because that's just how life works. That's how I learn women work. I'm going to have some nuances of me on how men work that the child, is going to need at times, but then it's also going to need like the best of what she can bring to the table. And in my opinion, I think that that helps give way more comfort in my mind, especially as I'm speaking it out loud. I haven't talked about it as deep publicly before, so that's probably why even like my heart is beating a little faster than it was in any particular part of our conversation. Because for me, it's a dramatic change and transformation in my life, and I've never been through it. She's never been through it, so neither of us have experience versus like one of us having experience in it, and it's happening at a point where I more than I have before, felt like I was, like, right on the cusp, and I am there of, like, taking my business to that next level. So it's like, "Damn, I'm about to take my business to the next level, but then how much do I gotta sacrifice and give away to take care of a child?" It's like a baby and a
Yeah.
baby is what I'm getting ready to be
Yeah.
raising.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not even remotely on the same level, but I mean, it's kind of been, I've been thinking about that myself. It's like, uh, the podcast is basically a whole other business. And then I've got my consulting business. And I'm also like, how do I find time to take care of myself and also my friends and my partner and all this other stuff? And I'm just like, what I thought about it a couple times, like, what would happen if I had a kid right now? Like, I don't know if I'd be able to juggle all that. I don't think I'd be able to juggle all that. And
Mm,
so it's like it really makes you rethink your priorities um a lot. So that's, I think you're gonna do great, man.
thank you,
I really believe so.
thank you.
And and I think it's one of those things where it's just like there's a lot of bullshit that we grow up dealing with. And I think the real uh the real ROI on all this, the real return on investment perhaps, is how we can influence other people to grow up and to maybe suffer a little less. Still suffer. You want them to suffer so
Mhm,
that they can learn from it,
mhm.
but suffer a little less and learn a little more and take the torch and pass it a little further, you know?
Right,
And I think you're certainly going to do that, not only with just your kid, but also the people that you're helping, with your work. So
thank you.
I hope that I do that as well. I mean, that's all you can really hope for. But
Right, 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 right.
is there anything else that you want to talk about right now we haven't touched on yet?
We touched on everything I could think of. I mean, I took a few notes myself, just to see if there was anything, and we just like naturally touched on things before I even had to look at anything to talk about. But yeah, as
I
far
got
as
one thing actually I
yeah,
had on my list. How the fuck good are chili cheese Fritos, man?
how good are chili cheese Fritos? It depends on why you're eating them. If you're eating them
Yeah.
because you're drunk, you're hanging out, like, you're at the bar or something, and you've had something like they're they are fucking good. Like, if you
Yeah.
have to eat them out of actual nourishment every day,
Oh, no. No, no, no.
like, at
I
the
remember when I do research before, like, every podcast, and, I was going through your Instagram, and you had a photo from, like, a decade ago of, like, chili cheese Fritos, and I'm like, "Man, I grew up on that shit." I used to get my mom used to shop at Aldi. Um, Aldi's, like, kinda nice now.
Man, Aldi's
Like,
is the shit now.
yeah, like, Aldi's got, like, fucking grass-fed beef and shit that's
Yep,
affordable
yep,
and, like, a bunch of shit. I'm like, "Wow, Aldi's stepping its fucking game up,"
yep.
but, When I was growing up, Aldi, no shade on Aldi, no hate on Aldi, but Aldi was definitely cheap as all fuck, and,
Right.
like, sometimes the food quality was definitely there, but the chili cheese Fritos came in, like, a 99-cent bag, and they were identical to the Fritos, like, identical. I'm pretty sure they just were Fritos.
Right,
The
right.
same people made it. Uh, but I used to bash the living shit out of those things. I haven't ate those things in probably a decade, but I can't eat them on my current diet,
Mm.
for health reasons, but I want to. I want, like, I was actually tempted after I saw that, just to, like, I was like, "Man, I wish I could just go buy a bag of them." I probably won't eat them again for another decade, but, like, just the nostalgic factor,
No, that
but
I'm glad you asked that, and that time was what I was drinking. Like, I was at
dude,
a bar, and, one of the chefs, one of my good friends, his girlfriend is a chef, and she made these chili cheese Frito bags where she would
yeah,
add
the
the stuff
taco
in the
bags,
bag
yeah,
and stuff, and I didn't know nothing about this shit. This happened only a couple of years
yeah.
ago, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. You can just get a fork, put the chili cheese Frito." You're at the club or you're at an event or something like that, and you're just smashing on that, drinking your beer, taking your shots. Oh, man, that helps the alcohol so
Yeah.
well with the grease.
Probably got cancer from the heat
I
extracting
think
shit from
that's
the plastic.
I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
healthy for you, I'm just it helps you get through
No,
the
no,
night.
no. Dude, in New Orleans, there were so many late nights. It was kind of a common thing in New Orleans for them to have, like, hot dogs or something, or, like, burgers or whatever. Most of the time it's hot dogs. So there's some bars you go to, and if it was like a Sunday night or like a Friday night, usually it's Sunday nights, and you just go there and they just have hot dogs in the back, like in a crock pot. And they didn't charge you. You just eat as many hot dogs as you want. You'd have all the fixins and stuff, and it was just a normal thing. And I'm like, why is this not a thing everywhere? This is amazing.
Man, I
But I would eat so much stuff. I would make it a fucking, it was a routine thing because I was a fucking degenerate. I was like, I didn't work for like 2 years. So, like, I was just in New Orleans. I would routinely be, um, in the French Quarter. My home bar was the Abbey. I fucking love the Abbey, and often sometimes they would have, like, the fucking the there and a couple other places would have, like, the hot dogs and shit, and I would be up, it would be, like, 2 or 3 AM, I would have a cup of coffee, a Miller High Life, or a Rolling Rock, and a bunch, like, 3 or 4 fucking hot dogs.
see,
That
only
was a
in New
thing.
Orleans, like 2 or 3 AM.
Dude,
Man, that's the crazy I've
24-hour bars, dude,
man,
24-hour
I've been in
bars.
New Orleans a couple of times. That's what I was gonna ask you. Are you sure it wasn't? I love the like I rag on every city and state. So fuck anybody out there that was like, man, fuck you. Listen, I rag on Cleveland. I don't give a shit. And I live
Yeah,
here. I'm partly from here.
yeah.
So I got joke and I'm like, yo, are you sure it wasn't the voodoo magic that kind of drove you away from New Orleans? Like you sure it wasn't the gift of the curse
I
scenario?
I did love that place, but the thing is, like, it's not funny enough, Marilyn Manson has the best line about New Orleans. He's like, "It's a great place to visit, terrible place to live." And, like, I loved New Orleans, and I wanna say, like, I felt I liked it for all the right reasons, but unless you're born and raised there, it's like,
It's a rough place if you're not born and
yeah,
raised
but
there.
it's one of the anyway, like, it's just, I don't know. Ultimately, it's a really unhealthy place to be for somebody like me, because I am a novelty addict, and it's just, it's the food, there's not a lot, nobody takes care of their health there, and if they do, they're
But the
the
food is
exception.
good as fuck.
It's so fucking
Like,
good,
the
dude.
New Orleans makes some of the best fucking down south
Dude,
home cooked style. You're like, I just went to McDonald's. How the fuck are y'all making
yeah,
this home cooked like, it's
it's so good. There is a place I would go to, and it's called Hooks.
Uh-huh.
If you're listening to this and you ever go to fucking New Orleans, go to Hooks, and it's, like, north of the French Quarter. It's in, like, what probably used to be an old fast food joint, and it does not look like, it's not in the best it's not in a terrible neighborhood, but it's not in the best neighborhood. It's definitely far off away.
Mhm,
There's nothing near it
mhm.
aside from, like, a shopping complex with, like, a Walmart grocery store, like a Walmart, what do they call it? No, it's a Dollar General, like, grocery store. So, like, Dollar General has this, like, new experimental chain where it's like a grocery store, but
Okay.
it's, like, labeled as Dollar, it's
Dollar
weird, I
Tree
don't
and
know how to
Walmart
talk.
had a baby, basically. Okay.
Basically, yeah, and it's, like, really small. I think it's that. Anyway, it is, like, not near anything, and it has the best fucking fried chicken I've ever had in my life.
Mm,
I ate it, and literally there's only one other time I can think of where I ate it and I just could not talk. And
that's
one
good.
is the Rankin Burger, the Vault Burger at the Rankin Lounge in Asheville, North Carolina. It is by far and away the best burger I ever had. Every time I eat it, I even got an extra one, put it in my hotel fridge, woke up the next day hungover and ate it. And it still was like top 10 burgers I've ever had,
Oh, man.
cold, sitting in a thing. It was that good. Anyway, but Hooks, I went there and I had like a euphoric, like fucking religious experience eating this fried chicken. And I took some people there and they're like, dude, there's no way it's that good. And then they ate it and they don't talk for like 2 minutes. Like, fuck, you're right. You're right. It's so good. That place is like crack. Um,
I bet.
the food in New Orleans, like, is just so good from the littlest hole in the walls to everything, the home cooked stuff. I love it. It's dangerous for me. It's dangerous.
Especially for
So
drinkers. Anybody who's a drinker, you can drink 5 o'clock.
I
Hey, it's
have
four
been.
o'clock in the morning. Let's go. Let's go. Kind of like there's a
See,
reason why these places stop at 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning.
yeah,
New
if I
Orleans,
had a year left to live, I would spend a decent amount of time in New Orleans just, like, enjoying myself, but, yeah, I don't really drink much anymore, and it's not a good place for me to be. So,
respect.
anyway, this has been fun, man.
It's
I'm really looking forward to doing more down the line, and I'm really curious to hear what your journey as a father is like. So let's definitely do one down the line.
yes.
Doesn't have to be the next one, but what one in the future where we just talk about, okay, it's been 5 years. What the fuck? What's it been like?
By then,
This has been
you
fun.
had been trolled at least 50 times. Probably can't attempted to be canceled 10 times. Um,
If I'm doing it
if you're
right,
doing it
I
right,
will
right.
be.
I'm going with
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're doing
yeah.
it right. This was
Man.
great.
Anything you
Thank
want
you
to
for
say in
having me
closing?
on.
How can people reach you?
Yes, if you are looking for some help with your business and you need branding services or web development services, you can reach info at theiconicexpressions.com. Again, it's info at theiconicexpressions.com. And if you're a creator, more specifically a minority creator, go to iconic-elearning.com. Again, it's iconic-elearning.com. The whole notion of being iconic is the common denominator. So, and then
Oh
we
yeah.
have two sides of the fold. If you want to get a hold of me, you can also get a hold of me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me there, Maestro Stevens. You can Google Maestro Stevens. I'm one in a out of no more. I love that. And so, yeah, there's many ways you can get in touch with me, and I would love to connect.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I there's like several Josh Boones even in my own town. It's annoying. So it's but anyway, hell yeah, man. We'll have all those links in the show notes. Thank you so
This
much.
was
And
great.
looking forward to getting some drinks with you
All
soon,
right.
even though I said I don't drink a lot.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
You too, man. Bye.
Peace.
And that is it for this episode. Let me know what you thought in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, it would mean the world to me if you give us a quick like on this video and subscribe to the channel. I know everybody asked for this, but that really is the best way you can kind of help us out. We'll be able to grow the channel, put more resources into this, and get some of the dream guests that I really want to have on for you guys. Also, if you use podcast apps, be sure to look up The Josh Boone Show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever the hell you listen to podcasts, and we show up on your feed there too. So, until next time, peace y'all.